Chapter 1843. These old bones are really unpalatable, the demon blood vulture said with some dissatisfaction as it spat out a storage ring. A holy venerate, withered leaf city's city lord, was gone, just like that. The demon blood vulture swallowed him whole, not even leaving scraps. He was truly pitiful. This pitiful person definitely had something hateful about him. He was so greedy, his desires inflated. Such an outcome could be said to be his own doing, and could not be spared. If the demon blood vulture only extorted a Cheongchi beast ghost pennant and then sent Shao Chen away, this would be a fair deal. The Cheongchi beast ghost pennant was a superior grade soul tool carefully selected by the Scarlet Blood Pirate King. Its value was very high, and the demon blood vulture profited greatly. Upon seeing the medallion, the guards looked at Shao Chen, and their expressions changed. This was a rare VIP medallion. Without an extraordinary background, one would not be able to obtain it. "Young master, this way, please." One of the guards respectfully led Shao Chen to the Trans-Realm Transportation Formation in the City Lord's residence. After killing Withered Leaf City's City Lord and Bai Feng, Shao Chen showed a calm expression, not showing any openings. Instead, he even got the Withered Leaf City's City Lord's guard to respectfully lead him to the Trans-Realm Transportation Formation. It had to be said that this kind of psychological quality was not something an ordinary person could achieve. If an ordinary person killed a holy venerate, it would be impossible for it to not cause a commotion. The moment Shao Chen stepped out of the City Lord's residence, he would be discovered. The result would be death. The City Lord's residence had many experts, far more than ordinary people imagined. The guard led Shao Chen to a place in the City Lord's residence that was heavily guarded with many checkpoints. As this was not the time for the Trans-Realm Transportation Formation to open yet, there was no one here aside from the City Lord's residence experts. "Senior Ma, someone is carrying the City Lord's VIP medallion and is going to use the Trans-Realm Transportation Formation," the guard called out when he stopped at a checkpoint. "Medallion." A cold voice came from behind the checkpoint, sounding simple and forceful. Shao Chen took out the medallion and got the guard to bring it over. Soon, he was invited over. After passing the checkpoint, a huge Dao platform appeared before Shao Chen. It was made of ancient divine materials and gave off a faint glow. Flickering superior-grade spirit jades filled the gaps of the Dao platform. The entire platform had a circumference of 1,000 meters, and its surface was carved with mysterious runes that formed a complicated formation. There were many experts near the Dao platform. The scariest ones were the 8 gray-clad old men guarding the surroundings. Without exception, they were all peak late-stage star venerates, existences comparable to holy venerates. A heavy aura floated in the air. Standing in front of this trans-boundary teleportation array, it made people feel an extremely uncomfortable pressure. The gray-robed man addressed as Senior Ma stood up. He was a holy venerate expert. He walked towards Shao Chen and said, "The token is real. However, you are just an insignificant star venerate. Why did the City Lord give you the VIP token?" Shao Chen's eyes burned like torches as he stared straight at Shao Chen. The might of a holy venerate spread out indistinctly. The pressure it gave off was extremely strong. Shao Chen did not feel pressured at all. He retorted indifferently, "Why don't you go and ask the City Lord yourself?" Senior Ma snorted coldly and tossed the token to Shao Chen. "Humph! Don't give me that. In our eyes, the City Lord is just a representative. Quickly tell us where you want to go. We will send you there directly." Senior Ma had only asked casually, not truly suspecting Shao Chen. When he saw Shao Chen's unyielding attitude, he dropped the matter. Shao Chen thought for a while before replying, "The Yanwu dynasty." The Yanwu dynasty is boundlessly vast. Aside from the dynasty's capital, there are 118 provinces. Each province is as large as half a great realm. "Which province or county are you going to?" Senior Ma asked somewhat impatiently. Xiao Chen did not know which province to go to. If he went directly to the hidden spirit temple, that was unlikely. A demonic Tao city definitely did not have a transboundary transportation formation that led directly to a large Buddhist sect. The two of them were sworn enemies. Soaring Dragon Province, Soaring Dragon County. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen mentioned the only address he knew of in the Yanwu dynasty, the Soaring Dragon Marquis's conferred land. Xiao Chen recalled that Lan Luo's father, the Soaring Dragon Marquis, was the master of that province. No matter what, he would be completely safe after going to the Yanwu Great Realm. He could go anywhere he wanted. At that time, when the little monk woke up, Xiao Chen would not have to worry about him anymore. Xiao Chen wanted to go directly to the Divine Dragon Empire. However, given the little monk's situation, he could only send him back first. After all, it would be much more convenient to go to the Divine Dragon Empire after arriving in the Central Great Realm than to the Divine Dragon Empire from the Ash-Gray Sea. Send him over, Senior Ma said expressionlessly. Old Ma said expressionlessly. The 8 old men started forming hand seals together, and the magic arrays on the Tao platform activated one after another. A mysterious pillar of light soared into the clouds. After a long time, sweat continuously dripped down the 8 old men's foreheads. A circular door of light appeared in the center of the Tao platform. The light screen looked like smooth water, glowing like a mirror. Xiao Chen knew that he could reach his destination after passing through the door of light. Xiao Chen pushed off with his feet and gently drifted into the door of light. Just as Xiao Chen entered the door of light, someone suddenly rushed over with a flustered expression. We can't let him leave. The City Lord's life medallion shattered. Senior Ma's expression immediately changed. He turned around and said, Quick! Stop the trans-realm transportation formation. It's too late. The 8 old men had weak expressions as they spoke with great difficulty. Damn it! Senior Ma roared, and his holy venerate will surged out and crashed into the door of light. Tiny cracks immediately appeared in the water curtain-like door of light. Boom! Senior Ma was not done yet. His aura soared as he threw a palm strike. The palm strike shattered the door of light, turning it into countless figures of light. Pu-ci. The 8 old men maintaining the formations all vomited a mouthful of blood. They immediately suffered a huge backlash and fainted on the Tao platform. Speak! What's going on? Senior Ma shouted coldly, making the person who came to report tremble. The city lord and commander mysteriously invited this person in today, and even laid a restriction. When he came out, he brought the city lord's distinguished guest medallion. At that time, the city lord's life medallion shattered, but we did not immediately suspect him. After all, he is just a star venerate. Furthermore, Commander Bai was there. The person who came trembled in fear, speaking in a trembling voice. Doubt flashed in Senior Ma's eyes. Even if it were him, he could not imagine that the Withered Leaf City's city lord would die at Xiao Chen's hands. Even now, Senior Ma did not think that the murderer was Xiao Chen. However, there had to be some connection to this matter. It had to be related to Xiao Chen. Senior Ma was not satisfied with just letting Xiao Chen leave. However, the door of light shattered. Even if this fellow appeared in the Yanwu dynasty, he would not be able to escape death. However, the city lord's death would become a mystery. Chapter 1845. The Book of Lives, the Heavenly Book Scholar. Xiao Chen thought to himself, as the saying goes, the mysteries of heaven cannot be revealed. Is he really that divine? Speaking of which, the dragon-seeking art that Xiao Chen once cultivated and the divination Tao both belonged to the profound Tao. Xiao Chen believed in divination of the mysteries of heaven. Xiao Chen, who had reached the peak of the Kunlun realm, had already touched upon the Kunlun heavenly Tao. From there, he could see some of the mysteries of heaven and see the future, such as his fight with Chu Chaoyun. However, even if he knew, many things could not be avoided. This was how fate worked. Xiao Chen did not believe in fate. However, sometimes fate could not be avoided. How is it? Have you thought it through? Jiang He looked at Xiao Chen, revealing a look of desire in his eyes. He really hoped that Xiao Chen would go with him. Let's go then. Xiao Chen thought, the little monk has mentioned this person several times. There is no harm in meeting him. Let's go. It looked like Jiang He was already impatient to leave. The Heavenly Mystery Tower was a famous building in Soaring Dragon City. After leaving the inn, one could see the towering tower in the distance when they looked up. The tower's tip pierced the clouds, and a resplendent pearl was embedded at the top. The pearl gave off electric light in all directions, adding to its mysteriousness. Xiao Chen casually waved, and the cycle war chariot appeared. Then, it turned into a black chariot and quickly carried the two to their destination. While the chariot looked very close, when they actually walked, they had to cross several streets. The chariot traveled for 1 hour before finally arriving near the Heavenly Mystery Tower. Even with the cycle war chariot speed, they still had to travel for another hour. However, they still had not left this area. This showed how vast Soaring Dragon City was, somewhat inconceivably large. When the two got off the chariot, they discovered that the Heavenly Mystery Tower's doors were tightly shut. However, a large group of people gathered in front of the tower. These were probably all people who wanted to meet the Heavenly Book Scholar. Jiang He rubbed his chin and said, "This is unfortunate. The Heavenly Mystery Tower is actually closed. Is there any other way in?" Jiang He looked around as if he did not want to take the usual route. Xiao Chen stopped him and said, "There seems to be something in front of the door. These people should be looking at it. Is that so? Go over and take a look. Make way, make way." Jiang He squeezed in without saying a word, and those who were pushed away were furious. Still, as the saying goes, one does not slap a smiling face. Hence, Jiang He smiled apologetically, and hence led Xiao Chen to the front of the crowd. "It's a notice." There was a notice pasted on the door. It was very simple and clear. "Honored guests are here today. The Heavenly Book Scholar will not see outsiders. The Heavenly Mystery Tower will open at dusk." Xiao Chen looked up at the sky. It was not noon yet. If they waited until dusk, they would have to wait for more than half a day. What distinguished guest! Even if you do not want to meet the Heavenly Book Scholar, you can meet the other fortune-tellers. Why do you have to close your doors? This is really strange. Perhaps it really is an esteemed guest who has arrived and does not want others to know his identity. There is no lack of such major characters in Soaring Dragon City. Could it be someone from the Marquis's residence? When they saw the notice, the people from all over started talking all at once. If it was a distinguished guest, there was naturally no one in Soaring Dragon City who had a more distinguished status than the people in the Marquis's mansion. However, that was hard to say. There were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the Yanwu dynasty. Who knew who it was, coming from afar to seek an audience with the Heavenly Book Scholar? There had been such examples in the past. "Come out first." Jiang He led Xiao Chen out and arrived at a desolate place. Then, he stared at the Heavenly Mystery Tower and entered deep thought. Xiao Chen observed Jiang He's expression and said, "You can't be thinking of sneaking in, right?" Jiang He retorted boldly, "Of course. In my plan, I have already taken into account such a situation. When an esteemed guest arrives, it is the time to focus on divination. To me, this is a heaven-sent opportunity." Xiao Chen shook his head, not thinking much of it. Just by looking at this Heavenly Mystery Tower, one would feel that it was not simple. Aside from the doors, there were no other entrances. The walls of the tower were tightly sealed, not leaving any gaps or even windows. It was basically impossible to sneak in without anyone noticing. Furthermore, it was currently daytime. There were many people nearby, making it even more difficult. "How are you going to enter?" "Of course, by walking in openly." Jiang He smiled mysteriously. Then, he took out a talisman and handed it to Xiao Chen. "I found this in an ancient grave. I do not know which epoch it is from, but there are only 3 of them. They can temporarily immaterialize your body for 15 minutes. That should be enough for us to enter. After receiving the talisman, Xiao Chen felt slightly shocked. Your talisman is no less valuable than the folding fan in his hand. Is it worth it? That folding fan is the Heavenly Book scholar's lifeblood. To me, the talisman is just a tool that I can casually give away. There is no comparison between the two. Jiang He stuck the talisman on his body. Then, Xiao Chen immediately discovered that Jiang He vanished from before his eyes. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen used his soul energy to activate the talisman and stuck it on his body as well. He thought to himself, using such a precious item like this is truly a waste. Only someone like Jiang He, who did not care about anything, could be so calm. Let's go. Although Xiao Chen could not see the other party, he could hear Jiang He's voice projection. He pressed forward courageously, passing through the crowd and going through the door. The immaterialized two easily passed through the door riddled with restrictions, not causing any commotion. Let's be faster. The Heavenly Book scholar has been performing divination on the 8th floor. The talisman only lasted for 15 minutes. They had to hurry. Otherwise, it would be problematic if they were exposed midway. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The two moved quickly, passing through many restrictions and moving under the watchful eyes of many experts. His movements were unimpeded, and he was advancing at a much faster pace than he had expected. This saved them a lot of time and brought them to the 8th floor. It's in the west. Go straight, turn left, turn right. We arrived. It looked like Jiang He was very familiar with the situation here. In less than 15 minutes, Xiao Chen and Jiang He arrived at the room where the Heavenly Book scholar performed divination. 2 plain wooden doors stood ajar at the end of the path. Strange. Aren't we going to meet an honored guest? Why is there no one guarding the room? Why is there no sound coming from inside? Xiao Chen felt curious. His immaterialized body passed through the wooden doors and arrived at the Heavenly Book scholar's room. The furnishings in the room gave off an ancient charm, looking very elegant. There was a white piece of paper spread out on the desk, and a maidservant was grinding it. Beside her was a white-robed scholar, who was fanning himself with his eyes closed. There was no one on the opposite chair. Xiao Chen wondered if the honored guest had already left or if the honored guest had never been here. Sit. The white-clad scholar suddenly said, revealing a smile on his delicate and pale face as he raised his head to look at Xiao Chen. You can see me? This startled Xiao Chen when he heard that. There was still a long way to go before the time limit was up. Why can't I see you? The white-clad scholar closed the folding fan in his hand and revealed a playful expression. Ghostly shadow bandit, where are you trying to run? Whoosh, whoosh. 10 odd experts suddenly appeared in the originally empty room, blocking Xiao Chen's path. Humph. You did not expect such a day to come, right? Jiang He? The Heavenly Book scholar foresaw that you would walk right into our trap today. Hand over my Smiling Daughter Pavilion's fairy basket, and my Sun Moon Pavilion's holy sky treasure mirror, and my Jiang clan's clan head's jade underworld sword. That is the only soul tool of my Jiang clan. The 10 odd people all felt indignant at this injustice, their rage unquenchable. The murderous intent in their eyes nearly spewed out as flames. Damn it, I got tricked. From the start to the end, there were no honored guests. It was just the Heavenly Book scholar setting up the trap for Jiang He, having predicted that he would come today. However, the one who tricked Xiao Chen was Jiang He. The Heavenly Book scholar had tampered with the talisman he gave to Xiao Chen. Before the time limit was up, the effects vanished. Xiao Chen said calmly, I am not Jiang He. I am Xiao Chen. Haha. Who does not know that Xiao Chen is Jiang He and Jiang He is Xiao Chen? Ghostly Shadow Bandit, when you stole my clan's jade underworld sword, didn't you use Xiao Chen's name? One of the old men holding a sword looked coldly at Xiao Chen, showing a mocking expression. With the Heavenly Book Scholar here today, no matter how flawless your disguise is, you can forget about quibbling. Hurry up and hand over the treasures you stole. I can sense that my smiling daughter Pavilion's fairy basket is indeed in his hands. Just at this moment, a pretty woman in her prime looked at Xiao Chen while holding the fairy basket. She could no longer hold back her murderous intent. Good. This is great. There is no way for me to explain myself. White is black. Xiao Chen turned around and looked at the Heavenly Book Scholar. Then, he said, since you are known as the Book of Accounts, knowing everything, why don't you make a divination? Am I Jiang He? Right now, Xiao Chen could only rely on the Heavenly Book Scholar. He hoped that the other party was reliable. From the start to the end, the white-clad scholar did not say anything. However, some doubt appeared in his eyes as he looked at Xiao Chen. You still need to make a divination? If you are not the ghostly shadow bandit, how are you going to explain the fairy basket in your hand? The fairy basket of my smiling daughter Pavilion's branch is just a replica. The feeling from the original in my hand cannot be fake. That pretty woman in her prime spoke in an incredibly forceful manner, looking like she wanted to take down Xiao Chen on the spot. When the others heard this, their killing chi intensified. They all looked at Xiao Chen with extremely hostile gazes. Everyone, there is no need to be in such a rush. Once he enters the Heavenly Mystery Tower, he will be like a turtle in a jar. He will not be able to escape. The Heavenly Book Scholar said slowly, whether he is or not, I will know once I make a divination. Right after the Heavenly Book Scholar spoke, stars flickered in his eyes. He held the fan in his right hand and performed divination with his left. As the Heavenly Book Scholar executed his divination, the white paper on the table slowly floated up. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. He felt like he could no longer hide any secrets before this pair of eyes. A mysterious energy invisibly encased Xiao Chen's body. Stars flickered in the Heavenly Book Scholar's eyes, looking like the vast and boundless starry heavens. Stars were continuously destroyed before being reborn. It was like the supreme principles of the universe were all in the Heavenly Book Scholar's eyes. It's really him! Someone suddenly exclaimed. The white paper floating in the air slowly revealed a portrait of a person. It was the portrait of Jiang He when Xiao Chen first met him. This stunned Xiao Chen. How can this be? How can I not know who I am? That's not right. Suddenly, the Heavenly Book Scholar's expression changed slightly. Someone had secretly tampered with the aura of the person before him. However, the Heavenly Book Scholar was horrified to discover a horrifying existence in this person's fate. It was unfathomable and unfathomable. The Heavenly Book Scholar wanted to stop, but it was already too late. Pu Si. The Heavenly Book Scholar vomited a mouthful of blood and fainted. Young master! The maidservant at the side showed an anxious expression. The portrait floating in the air burned and turned into ashes. Take him down. He wants to attack the Heavenly Book Scholar. The situation instantly worsened. 10 odd holy venerates launched themselves at Xiao Chen at the same time. Chapter 1846. Even the ledger-keeper of the common people can't find my innocence? Xiao Chen felt somewhat speechless. Then, he turned his head to look at the 10 holy venerates surrounding him. What exactly did this Jiang He steal? To think that he provoked a group of holy venerates into being so unreasonable. For one to become a holy venerate, one's mental state and intelligence were clearly high. However, rage clearly got to Jiang He's head now, wanting to kill Xiao Chen first. Jiang He definitely could not defeat 10 holy venerate. He could only defeat them with his wits, not force. Whoosh! Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he landed behind the unconscious Heavenly Book Scholar. Then, he knocked out the anxious, pretty maidservant with a palm strike. Then, he carried the Heavenly Book Scholar's body and used it as a shield. Shameless! The group of holy venerates immediately held back for fear of harming the Heavenly Book Scholar. Ghostly Shadow Bandit, quickly release the heavenly book scholar, and we can still let you die a quick death. Otherwise, it will be hard for you to die." The old man whose clan's soul tool was stolen by Jiang He cursed endlessly, feeling incredibly frustrated. Xiao Chen sensed for a while. Right now, the entire Heavenly Mystery Tower was startled. The experts in the tower were rushing over. In fact, there were even a few extremely terrifying auras that were rapidly rushing over. This place was not suitable for them to linger. If they did, they would definitely die. Boom! Xiao Chen could not be bothered with this group of people who kept shouting at him but did not dare to step forward. Xiao Chen turned around and punched the wall. He activated 30% of his blue dragon bloodline and infused it with 20 cauldron force. A dragon roar immediately rang out, and the force of his punch blasted a hole in the wall. Whoosh! Nearly the instant Xiao Chen punched, Xiao Chen carried the little monk and the heavenly book scholar on his back and rushed out of the hole. After him. The holy venerates behind were stunned for a moment, feeling somewhat shocked. The force of Xiao Chen's punch actually blasted a hole in the Heavenly Mystery Tower's wall. This was simply incredible. After startling to their senses, the holy venerates quickly moved and gave chase. "Stay behind." A mysterious expert leaped out of the top floor of the Heavenly Mystery Tower and chased after Xiao Chen. A will burst out from the center of his brows, which surged forward with the heavenly might. What a fellow! The person who came was a peak late-stage Holy Venerate expert. Xiao Chen did not dare to clash head-on. He unfurled his blue dragon divine wings, and his speed suddenly soared, allowing him to dodge this Holy Venerate will in advance. He circulated the heavenly heart art, and the heavenly eye on his forehead opened. Xiao Chen took out the Soul Slayer bow. In the blink of an eye, he condensed arrows with his heart flame and shot out 10-odd arrows. Electric light flickered on the blue dragon divine wings. With a gentle flap, thunder and lightning roared endlessly. He pushed Xiao Chen's Thunder Great Dao to its limit. With his nimble body, swift speed, and the heart's fire arrow. Using his own strength, Xiao Chen blocked the many experts behind him, widening the distance between him and the other party. Who is that person? To think that he kidnapped the Heavenly Book Scholar. Aren't you meeting an important guest? Why did someone kidnap the Heavenly Book Scholar? What's going on? The Heavenly Book Scholar calculated all lives. How could he be kidnapped? Could it be that there is someone that he cannot figure out? This sudden scene immediately caused an uproar among the cultivators below the pagoda. After pulling away, before Xiao Chen could catch his breath, he felt many terrifying wills soar up from various directions in Soaring Dragon City. These wills headed in the direction of the Heavenly Mystery Tower. The number of hidden experts in the city was truly terrifying. Xiao Chen quickly put on the Death God mask and activated the secret technique on the mask clone. Activating the secret technique on the masked doppelganger, the two doppelgangers landed on the ground. Then, Xiao Chen executed the secret technique again. The void mask took advantage of the instant his body immaterialized to quickly hide his true body. He used the mask to create a fake body to attract the pursuers. At this moment, no one noticed that a figure suddenly appeared at the top of the Heavenly Mystery Tower. This figure smiled faintly as he looked at the huge pearl crystal embedded in the top of the Heavenly Mystery Tower. This subdivine crystal is mine. This person was Jiang He. While everyone was distracted by Xiao Chen, he appeared silently. Jiang He looked at the Heavenly Mystery Tower experts and the holy venerates being chased by the other factions. Then, he said, "Brother Xiao Chen, sorry. I'll explain to you later." Right after Jiang He spoke, he quickly removed the subdivine crystal at lightning speed. The instant the subdivine crystal was removed, the sky suddenly turned dark. The expressions of the experts chasing Xiao Chen's fake body changed drastically. When they looked back, they were startled. The subdivine crystal that had stood in the Heavenly Mystery Tower for more than 1,000 years was actually taken away. The crowd burst into another commotion. To think that someone dared to steal something from the Heavenly Mystery Tower. Was he not afraid of death? After stealing the Heavenly Mystery Tower's subdivine crystal, even if one ran to the ends of the world, one would still be found. One could offend many factions and experts in the Yenwu dynasty. However, everyone acknowledged that the Heavenly Mystery Tower and the Yen Emperor Palace were two super factions that could not be offended. Damn it! That's a fake body. When the crowd finally caught up to Xiao Chen's fake body after putting in all their effort, they all vomited blood in frustration. We let the ghostly shadow bandit escape again. It turns out that his target is that subdivine crystal. It looks like he has an accomplice. This ghostly shadow bandit is becoming increasingly arrogant. He is even targeting the Heavenly Mystery Tower. However, when did the ghostly shadow bandit obtain a pair of dragon wings? How come I have never seen them before? The chain of events was filled with mysteries and strangeness, confusing the group of people chasing after Xiao Chen. The Heavenly Mystery Tower turned chaotic at this moment. The subdivine crystal, which powered the entire Heavenly Mystery Tower, had been taken away. Many of the formations malfunctioned. Some formations that needed to continuously replenish energy were destroyed on the spot. The entire tower turned pitch black. Everyone felt incredibly confused. The most important thing was that the Heavenly Book Scholar, the Pagoda Master, was kidnapped. Without a leader, the situation became even more chaotic. The news of the Heavenly Book Scholar being kidnapped and the ghostly shadow bandit stealing the subdivine crystal quickly spread to the various major factions in the city. Such a major matter had not happened in Soaring Dragon City for a very long time already. The Marquis's residents immediately learned of the news and reported it. Even the Soaring Dragon Marquis himself was startled. Xiao Chen, who could catch his breath for now, immediately brought the Heavenly Book Scholar to Jiang He's hidden courtyard. Xiao Chen had a feeling that Jiang He would return. This was because this place was the safest. The formations he laid could erase the mysteries of heaven, preventing others from divining it. After looking around the courtyard, Xiao Chen thought for a while. Then, he placed the Heavenly Book Scholar on a stool at a stone table in the courtyard. Xiao Chen placed the folding fan in his right hand on the stone table with his back to the door. Time passed quietly. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and waited quietly. When the sky turned dark, footsteps came from outside. Xiao Chen quickly opened his eyes. Jiang He, who was in a good mood, immediately felt stunned when he pushed the door open. What entered Jiang He's eyes was the Heavenly Book Scholar's back. He exclaimed hoarsely, "That's impossible. I already laid a heaven-bewildering formation here. You cannot possibly divinate it. You lost." The Heavenly Book Scholar, who should have continued sleeping, suddenly turned around and waved his folding fan. The door behind Jiang He suddenly closed tightly. Flowing light spread out in the entire courtyard, and countless figures flickered. With the Heavenly Book Scholar's fan, the heaven-bewildering formation suddenly turned into a heaven-sealing formation, directly sealing off this space. Interesting. When did you wake up? Originally, Xiao Chen had been prepared to take advantage of Jiang He's stunned state to instantly restrain him and force him to explain what had happened to give him an explanation. If there was no reasonable explanation, Xiao Chen would not hesitate to kill the other party. Who knew? Xiao Chen miscalculated, and the Heavenly Book Scholar woke up prematurely. Damn! Jiang He was startled by Xiao Chen's sudden appearance. He was even more shocked than when the Heavenly Book Scholar appeared. Are you not going to explain to me what's going on with this talisman? Xiao Chen asked as he looked at Jiang He, taking out the talisman that had already lost its effect. Jiang He smiled embarrassedly. This, I'll speak on his behalf. He made a bet with me. He said that he would perfectly extract the Heavenly Mystery Tower's subdivine crystal within 1 month. If he lost, I would help him make a divination. I divined that he would come to extract it today. However, I did not see that you were a variable. I could not tell you because I would know if I did. While I could not divine what happened to you, I could divine what happened to him. However, he did not expect you to be a variable, either. Not only did you manage to escape the pursuit of so many holy venerates, but you even brought me here. The Heavenly Book Scholar stood up and spoke leisurely. He gently fanned himself, appearing calm and collected, giving off an aura of being in control of the situation. Hence, he still lost. No one can leave my heaven-sealing formation. I have the final say in everything. Hand over the substandard god crystals and the things you stole. Ci. However, right after the Heavenly Book Scholar spoke, a hole instantly appeared in the heaven-sealing formation in the sky. Shao Chun put down the Soul Slayer bow, and the heart flame on his finger vanished. Then, he looked at the Heavenly Book Scholar and said, "It does not seem as incredible as you make it out to be. A casual arrow can create a hole. Heart force? That's not right. If it were heart force, the heaven-sealing formation would have been destroyed long ago." The Heavenly Book Scholar's expression changed. He silently circulated his divination skills, wanting to continue attacking. However, the moment the Heavenly Book Scholar moved, he discovered a terrifying aura locking down on him. If he moved rashly, he would die in the next moment. Who has the final say now? Shao Chun asked indifferently after he switched out the Soul Slayer bow for the God Shadow bow and aimed it at the Heavenly Book Scholar. You. The Heavenly Book Scholar had never felt so sullen before. After a long time, he squeezed out a word through clenched teeth. The Heavenly Book Scholar did not miss anything. Even if a sovereign personage came, that sovereign personage would not show him any respect. Yet, the Heavenly Book Scholar ran into Shao Chun, who broke his heaven-sealing formation without saying a word. This was a resounding slap to the Heavenly Book Scholar, who had just gained control of the situation. Before he could think of a solution, Shao Chun took out a soul tool. This was truly unreasonable and extremely tyrannical. Who has lost now? Shao Chun asked. The Heavenly Book Scholar's expression changed slightly. However, when he saw the God Shadow bow in Shao Chun's hand, he said with a sullen expression, "Me." As the saying goes, if one admits a bet, one must be willing to admit defeat. I did not force you, right? A smile appeared on Shao Chun's icy face. However, he did not put away the God Shadow bow, continuing to lock down on the Heavenly Book Scholar. Shao Chun, Jiang, he felt warmth in his heart. Unexpectedly, Shao Chun would still help him at this moment. Stop wasting time. Hurry up. Since I was willing to accompany you despite knowing that you wanted to steal his folding fan, I already had the intention of helping you. Now that the misunderstanding has been resolved, I will naturally help you to the end. Shao Chun did not waste any words. He quickly expressed his thoughts and urged Jiang He. Many thanks. Jiang He said seriously. Then, he walked over to the Heavenly Book Scholar and told him about his divination. Chapter 1847. Heavenly Book Scholar, you are known as the Book of Life, able to divine everything in the world. Let me ask you something. Who will be the next Dragon Emperor? Right after Jiang He spoke, Shao Chun's expression changed. What great ambition! Could it be that Jiang He wants to vie for the Dragon Emperor position as well? When the Heavenly Book Scholar heard that, he revealed a mocking expression. What kind of luck is contained in the words Dragon Emperor? Who would dare to casually divine it? You are also someone who knows divination technique. To think that you would make such a request. I overestimated you. Even if I use my lifespan to divine it, the results will be cryptic and hard to understand. Jiang He said, naturally, I know that. I already brought natural treasures to replenish my lifespan. Just do your best to divine it for me. After saying that, Jiang He took out a brocade box from his storage ring and opened it for the Heavenly Book Scholar to see. Pure water white lotus. The Heavenly Book Scholar received the brocade box and no longer hesitated. You are really persistent. In that case, I'll do as you wish. The heavenly book scholar gently flapped his folding fan and looked up at the starry sky. The stars in his eyes seemed to reflect on the starry heavens. Xiao Qin opened his heavenly eye and looked up. He discovered that the star chart above seemed to move mysteriously. The heavenly book scholar's eyes seemed to see through the mysteries of heaven. His soul landed on the mysterious river of fate. After a while, the heavenly book scholar gave off a terrifying aura. It was like he had the mandate of heaven on him. Even Xiao Qin and Jiang, he felt a deep fear from the aura that the heavenly book scholar gave off. The god's shadow bow in the heavenly book scholar's hand trembled slightly. Sensing a threat, it actually took the initiative to draw on Xiao Qin's soul energy. A pair of scarlet wings silently unfurled on the god's shadow bow's sides. The god's shadow bow took on a form that Xiao Qin had never seen before. The entire bow flowed with light, and the holy beast carved on it seemed to move. The heavenly book scholar is stronger than I imagined. He is not as weak as he looks. Xiao Qin thought to himself, when I fought the Black Lotus demonic ancestor in the past, the god's shadow bow did not show such a mysterious phenomenon. Naturally, the Black Lotus demonic ancestor was stronger than the heavenly book scholar. It could only be said that the heavenly book scholar grasped a terrifying taboo energy but could not casually use it. Hua! The light on the heavenly book scholar's body shattered like glass, turning into countless shards that gathered in the air. What did you see? Jiang, he asked somberly, knowing that the divination results were out. Tiance's complexion was pale, and he was extremely weak. He did not say anything, only holding his folding fan and casually swiping it across the stone table. As the saying went, the mysteries of heaven could not be revealed. Naturally, the heavenly book scholar would not reveal everything he saw. It was just a casual stroke, and how much Jiang he could comprehend would depend on himself. This is a saber mark that you simulated. Are you trying to say that the next Dragon Emperor will be a good saber user? Among the outstanding young talents of the dragon race, aside from the willow leaf saber, I am the next best. Jiang, he muttered to himself, could it be that the next Dragon Emperor will be Lu Ryue? In history, the dragon race did have female emperors. With Lu Ryue's talent and elegance, she did indeed have the potential to become the Dragon Emperor. The heavenly book scholar remained expressionless as he said indifferently, what I want to say is all in this stroke. There is no need for you to continue asking me. Thank you. Jiang, he did not bother saying anything else. He took out the subdivine crystal and handed it to the heavenly book scholar. After casually receiving the subdivine crystal, the heavenly book scholar looked at Xiao Qin and said, Friend, you can put away your bow, right? Xiao Qin smiled faintly and put the god's shadow bow back into his storage ring. Then, he walked over to the stone table and looked at the mark, entering deep thought. It was indeed a saber mark. Xiao Qin and Jiang, he were both peak bladesmen. They could tell what mark the heavenly book scholar wanted to simulate with one glance. However, this saber mark might not indicate that the next Dragon Emperor would be a bladesman. After the divination ended, the heavenly book scholar retrieved the subdivine crystal. Then, he stood up to leave. When the heavenly book scholar saw Xiao Qin, he paused for a moment before sitting down again. I will give you a word for free. Although I cannot perform a divination for you, I can give you a word. Word reading. Brother Xiao Qin, the heavenly book scholar, first became famous because he read the words of the three princes of the dynasty. Jiang, he explained from the side. The heavenly book scholar's word reading was also excellent. Or rather, it should be said that this was his specialty. The heavenly book scholar took out paper, ink, brush, and inkstone. Then, he said, Please. Xiao Qin picked up the brush and entered deep thought. However, he did not know what to write. After staring for a while, he dipped the brush in ink and did not stop writing. Then, he wrote a word without hesitation. Moon. The heavenly book scholar looked at Xiao Qin curiously and asked, What do you want? To seek peace of mind. Ha ha. In that case, it looks like you will not get it. The road ahead is hard to break, and it is hard to find peace of mind. The heavenly book scholar smiled faintly as he fanned himself with his folding fan after looking at Xiao Chen's handwriting. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. What do you mean? If one wants peace of mind, one has to be upright and bright, without any shadows. Without the moon, how can one's heart be at peace? Now, look at your handwriting. The writing is casual, but it is clean, decisive, and straightforward. Your eyes and expressions can lie, but your words cannot. You must have a firm and resolute character, someone who kills decisively. Now, look at your final stroke. There should be a hook when you write the word moon. However, there is none. It plunges straight down like a sharp saber, neat and tidy, looking grand and majestic as it falls from the sky, looking like a sovereign descending from the 9 heavens. This moon is like fire, watered by hot-bloodedness and lofty sentiments. It burns fiercely, comparable to the blazing sun. This moon is like a saber, dazzling with saber light, pressuring with pride and sharpness. Naturally, the heavenly book scholar would not casually give a conclusion. He had his own reasoning and origins. Jiang he felt somewhat confused. No matter how you look at it, these are all merits. Why is the conclusion so different? The heavenly book scholar replied indifferently, that is because of what he seeks. How can a heart burning without hesitation be at peace? How can a proud and aloof saber be willing to be mediocre, unhindered by the world? If you seek riches and honor, fame, or righteousness, they are all good words. However, what you seek is peace of mind. This heart cannot be at peace? As Xiao Chen looked at the word moon on the white paper, he felt slightly stunned, not saying anything. However, Jiang he asked on Xiao Chen's behalf, is there a way to break it? Naturally there is. This moon is like fire, burning fiercely, eager to soar into the sky. It does not want to stop for even half a step. Just stay here. As long as this moon does not rise, you will be at peace. The heavenly book scholar seemed to have expected this question. He smiled faintly and casually spoke of a way to break it. As the white-clad scholar waved his folding fan, he looked very graceful. Xiao Chen had not expected the other party to see so much from just the word moon. As for whether it was accurate or not, that would depend on whether one believed it or not. Goodbye. The heavenly book scholar closed his folding fan and performed a cupped fist salute, appearing extremely carefree. Wait a moment. Xiao Chen suddenly said softly. The heavenly book scholar's expression changed slightly as he asked, what is it? There's no rush. I will not take out the god shadow bow again. I want to ask you something. A few months ago, did you receive a young monk with delicate features and divine a fortuitous encounter for him? So what if I did? Nothing much. It's just that the little monk is not happy and wants to have a heart-to-heart talk with you. The little demonic monk Silver Saber? Shock flashed in the heavenly book scholar's eyes. People like him, who were proficient in divination and deducing the mysteries of heaven, were the ones he was most unwilling to meet. After walking the divination path, one would naturally have a deep belief in the heavenly Tao and fate. When a calamity came knocking, nothing good would come out of it. The heavenly book scholar showed a doubtful expression as he looked around and did not see anyone. He smiled and said, "Young master, please don't joke around." Xiao Chen smiled and said, "I never joke around." Bang! Right after the heavenly book scholar spoke, the little monk leaped out of the bag on Xiao Chen's back. Then, his tender little fist instantly landed on the heavenly book scholar's face. "I ended up like this because I listened to your nonsense. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death." The little monk's baby-like face did its best to make an angry expression. However, no matter how hard it tried, it still looked incredibly cute when paired with that tender little face. The little monk's tiny fist striking the heavenly book scholar's face looked more like an affectionate gesture. However, the heavenly book scholar was in unbearable pain. He clutched his head and scurried around in a sorry state, no longer looking like an elegant scholar. Upon seeing the heavenly book scholar's appearance, Xiao Chun felt somewhat pleased. What he hated the most were people who deliberately mystified others and put on airs. Xiao Chun felt upset, but it was not to the point where he would make a move to teach the heavenly book scholar a lesson. The little monk, who had just woken up and received a voice projection from Xiao Chun, was the most suitable person to make a move. However, when Xiao Chen's gaze fell on the white paper on the stone table, the smile on his face slowly dimmed. Out of curiosity, Xiao Chun had not expected to end up with a divination that made his heart uneasy and his future difficult. He hoped that it was just a casual remark. Chapter 1848. Why am I so unlucky? Xiao Chun nonchalantly spat out these 3 words. I don't know. The instant I raised my brush, I thought of the word moon. Perhaps I have a fate with the moon in my life. Many of the martial techniques I cultivate are related to the moon. The person I like has the moon in his name as well. However, such a person actually had the same goal as him. One contained a great horror in the heavenly mysteries, which could not be divined. The other did not need to be divined. He was horrifying in the first place. Xiao Chen's words sounded a little awkward, but his meaning was clear. Not only could they not become close friends, but they might even become mortal enemies. The little monk's tender head appeared on Xiao Chen's shoulder. He scratched his head and said in confusion. Xiao Chen was not such a person. He was very clear on his own heart. He would not hide it from Jiang He even if he did not want to. Interesting. No wonder I got along so well with you the moment I saw you. Aside from the so-called mixed-blood dragon bloodline, as bladesmen, you actually have the same goal. It's just a small injury. It's not a big deal. Next time, be gentler. Jiang He, who was at the side, gaped in shock. Brother Xiao, aren't you being too calm? Xiao Chen's observation was very meticulous, and he sharply noticed something else. Seeing the little monk's angry appearance, he looked very cute. Jiang He laughed heartlessly. Big brother, are you alright? I want to be the Dragon Emperor. Pu Ci. Speaking of which, the two of you are staring at each other and doing your best to look fierce. However, there is no killing chi or will of soul infused into your auras. Is this the legendary exchange of glances? This little monk doesn't understand. Fate made fools of people. Sometimes it was really speechless when it came to the heavens. Just as Jiang He was about to speak, the three's expressions suddenly changed. The two looked away awkwardly, no longer daring to look at each other. They simply could not accept this. The contrast was too great. I'm used to it. However, Xiao Chun had no intention of stopping there. He looked straight at Jiang He and said seriously, "Let's go." He looked straight at Jiang He and said seriously, not caring about what he said at all. Perhaps. The scene suddenly changed. The infant-looking little monk made the situation somewhat awkward. Xiao Chun gently wiped off the blood at the corner of his lip. His expression did not change at all as he focused on the words he wrote. He raised his head and looked at the sky. In the night sky, several powerful auras were rapidly gathering towards this place. Even so, Jiang He was still shocked. Just how much luck did it take to subdue the little monk? The little monk on Xiao Chen's back was like a cat. He patted Xiao Chen's back and stuck his head out like a curious baby. Jiang He felt stunned. Then, he smiled and said, "It's not that I want to say this, but Brother Xiao, while you have the dragon race's bloodline, you are not one of the 6-colored divine dragons. It's good to have such ideals, but don't take them seriously." Flowing light flickered in all directions, and the heaven ceiling formation dissipated on its own. Then, its figure flashed as it flew away. Compared to the slap that almost took his life in the underground world, it was not worth mentioning. Who was it that ascended to the throne of the Dragon Emperor in the end? The heavenly book scholar showed a sullen expression as he folded up his folding fan and waved it a few times. That was not possible. If they fought for the position of Dragon Emperor, they would definitely become mortal enemies. As their gazes clashed in the air, sparks appeared. The path of kingship, the Dragon Emperor's throne, the little monk said in his childish voice, choking with emotion. Ha ha! The little demonic monk Silver Saber, you finally live up to your name. Ha! It was best to make some things clear in advance. If they were really competitors, there was no need to be secretive. The Heavenly Book Scholar, whose face was swollen, stood up in a sorry state. He looked at Xiao Chen and then at the little monk. This was truly an unrivaled combination. Strange. It looked like there was something difficult to say. Along the way, blood dripped from the tip of the saber, leaving behind a long mark. The saber mark vanished, and a saber light soared up like a flame, forming a light screen. However, when the Heavenly Book Scholar left the courtyard, he discovered that Xiao Chen, Jiang He, and the little monk completely ignored his existence. Xiao Chen answered honestly, not hiding anything. The two looked straight at each other. At this moment, the two, who were already very close, became somewhat unusual. Xiao Chen picked up the little monk's doo-doo and tied it up like a kitten's bell. The little monk cried out as his limbs flailed about. The combination of these two demonic geniuses was truly unrivaled. Never be surprised when you are with the little monk. Nothing unexpected can happen. This startled the little monk. He quickly stopped flailing about, lying quietly in the bag. Jiang He consoled, actually, there is no need to mind it. That ledger of lives is not omniscient and omnipotent. I believe that Brother Xiao will be able to achieve what you want and find peace of mind. Go ahead and do what you want to do. There is no need to stop. Jiang He revealed a mocking smile. However, he did not know whether he was mocking himself or Xiao Chen. The moment I switched the heaven-bewildering formation to the heaven-sealing formation, it could no longer stop the Heavenly Mystery Tower's great sages from divining. If there is any trouble later, don't blame it on me. When that person turned around, the scene suddenly vanished, and the light screen shattered. This made the Heavenly Book Scholar, who felt neglected for the first time, depressed. A mysterious phenomenon immediately appeared. When Xiao Chen heard that, he smiled and said, "It seems like you have an unranked bloodline as well. Get up. Stop stepping on my words." Seeing that Xiao Chen was still looking at the moon character on the paper, Jiang He asked out of curiosity, "Brother Xiao, why are you writing the moon character? That's not right. I am a curious baby in the first place." Xiao Chen felt so frustrated that he wanted to vomit blood. So, he fell asleep and woke up as a baby. Then, he leaped up and landed on the stone table. The scene of two outstanding talents fighting against each other, the indescribable hatred instantly crumbled. It seemed like Jiang He's words contained something that he could not say. After beating up the Heavenly Book Scholar for 15 minutes, the little monk's anger subsided slightly. It was not that Xiao Chen was calm enough. He was really used to it. The little monk felt depressed and frustrated. He swung his fists around, randomly hammering Xiao Chen's back. The situation turned even more awkward. Jiang He's expression changed slightly. His smile faded, and his expression turned cold, turning grave. However, just as Jiang He focused, the scene flickered. In the next moment, he saw only a person's feet walking towards the Dragon Emperor's throne. Even though the Heavenly Book of Life had always been calm and unruffled, controlling the situation with a wave of his fan, the Heavenly Book of Life was not able to do so. What do you think? So what if he vomited blood? However, he still could not change the fate of being tossed into the undergarment by Xiao Chen. There were very few bladesmen that could catch Xiao Chen's eye. There were even fewer that he could befriend. However, Jiang He was undoubtedly one of those few. The trouble that the Heavenly Book Scholar mentioned had arrived. The scene on the light screen flickered. An ancient throne sat at the end of the continuous steps. Xiao Chen sat down again and looked at the saber mark that the Heavenly Book Scholar left behind. Then, he reached out and caressed it. Jiang He said, "I'm different. Xiao Qin grunted and vomited a mouthful of blood, showing a pained expression. However, he could not do anything to these two demonic geniuses, one big and one small. He could only hide far away. Are you serious? However, Xiao Qin was certain that the final contenders were the three bladesmen. Xiao Qin countered. He did not want to see such a situation happen. However, sometimes he could not avoid it. Three blurry figures, each radiating a powerful saber intent, held their sabers, and ran up the steps with all their might. Xiao Qian's sudden question made Jiang He's eyes flicker. After some thought, he asked, "Can we not bring up this topic?" Jiang He felt slightly startled. He instantly recognized the throne and the steps. Then, he anxiously looked at the light screen. Jiang He smiled and said, "You really do not know how fortunate you are. Your physical body has been reforged, and your strength has improved further. Your future potential is even more boundless. Who knows how many older generation experts would go crazy with envy when they see you. Perhaps, I'm different from you." Xiao Qin looked calmly at Jiang He. Then, he enunciated every word clearly, "I never joke around. I really want to be the Dragon Emperor. I am very clear about my inner thoughts and my goal. I will also put in a lot of effort to achieve it, even at the cost of my life. I don't care. I want to become bigger. I want to become bigger." The rage on the little monk's face did not diminish. As he looked at the familiar people around him, they all became giant. Xiao Qin put away the white paper, and the saber mark that the heavenly book scholar left appeared on the stone table. Then, he looked at Jiang He and asked, "You want to be the Dragon Emperor?" "That's right. That's right. Why?" Jiang Shan smiled embarrassedly. "Brother Xiao, stop joking." Chapter 1849. The tune was still as gentle as before, as clear as water, as gentle and pleasant as before, as intoxicating as before. There was actually someone who wasn't afraid of death today, and had offended all of these powers. That's it then. What are they doing? To think that they took the initiative to land on the Smiling Daughter Pavilion's warship. Ordinary people would not dare to erase the might of the warship. Visible ripples spread out from the warship, looking like ripples on water, causing space to tremble. Many people with a keen sense of smell sensed an unusual aura. None of the factions behind them were weaker than the Jiang clan. His words were filled with decisiveness, domineeringness, and confidence. With such a background, many experts followed in secret, wanting to see what was going on. What happened? To think that the Jiang clan actually sent out the Purple Thunder warship. The Jiang clan only has 3 of these warships. Practically all these factions had their important treasures stolen. Furthermore, Jiang Chun has been roaming free, embarrassing the various factions long ago. Now that we caught him, we will not let him escape again. With the appearance of the Smiling Daughter Pavilion, many of the cultivators in the city, who were watching, could no longer hold back and soared into the air. Who is the ghostly shadow bandit? Could it be that the ghostly shadow bandit has always been 2 people? What countermeasures do you have? All sorts of startled cries rang out endlessly from below. Everyone broke out in a cold sweat at the audacity of the 2 in the air. Many people could already imagine the sound waves tearing the 2 into shreds, their blood filling the night sky. The rage in Jiang Chen's voice made everyone shudder in fear. Jiang He looked at the warship flying over from the west and said softly, "The Smiling Daughter Pavilion has the deepest accumulations among these factions. However, this is not the imperial capital, after all. A warship sent out by a county city cannot be that strong." Jiang He was startled at first. Then, he realized that the only way was to steal the warship. However, the murderous aura contained within was like raging waves that shook the heavens. "It's the Jiang clan's Purple Thunder warship." The deep sound of the war drums startled all the cultivators in Soaring Dragon City. It would be very difficult for a person to escape from a warship. However, if one could use the other party's warship, the situation would be different. However, there was no panic or hesitation in his eyes. The little monk was wearing a red doo-doo, exposing his 2 tender buttocks. However, he was not afraid. This lineup is truly grand. It seems that the various clans truly hate the ghostly shadow bandit to the bone. Yes, first leader. However, what shocked them even more was yet to come. To the west of soaring Dragon City, a fortress ship bathed in a jade light, surrounded by clouds and looking like the stars and the moon, leisurely approached. The night was as dark as ink, and the bright moon hung in the sky. People couldn't help but open their eyes to look, wanting to see her beautiful face. So. No one knew why the Jiang clan was so enraged that they actually dispatched a purple thunder battleship. In the night sky, in the north, a huge battleship burning with purple light was rapidly flying toward this place through the clouds. Although the Jiang clan is not one of the 8 great clans of our dynasty, it is definitely one of the top 3 great clans in the Soaring Dragon County. No wonder, other than him, there's no one else who would dare to offend so many powers. Today, he had made a mistake. What was even more horrifying was that they even beat the war drums. This was something that had not happened in the past few centuries. Damn. It really is the Smiling Daughter Pavilion's warship. It was as if what he said was just a trivial matter. These warships were all as fast as 7-star pirate ship. They were terrifyingly fast. An ancient Jiang character was written on the warship's bow. War drums rumbled on the warship, shaking the surroundings and sounding deafening. Be obedient and don't cause trouble. However, the expressions of those 2 did not change, not showing any change in their expressions. Are they sending themselves to death? Inside the courtyard, Xiao Chen looked at the warships flying over from all directions and entered deep thought. It looks like tonight is going to be a tough night. Don't underestimate the Smiling Daughter Pavilion's strength. In terms of accumulations, even the Jiang clan cannot compare to them. Zither strings, flute, pipa, chime bells, guzheng, all sorts of musical instruments rang out at the same time. Ding, ding, dong, dong. The thunderous war drums seemed like they would knock down the lunar palace in the sky. The best part was yet to come. Another 4 or 5 warships appeared in the night sky. It has been many years since I saw the Jiang clan send out the Purple Thunder warship. It was like the 2 figures fell from the bright moon to the mundane world. Before the surging attacks, they were as insignificant as a lone boat in the vast sea. Humph! 2 sonic booms rang out in the courtyard. Xiao Chen and Jiang He flew into the sky at the same time, traveling 10 kilometers in the blink of an eye. Normally, if one offended one of these factions, one would not be able to escape death. 2 resplendent saber lights burst out of the 2's hands at the same time. Xiao Chen picked up the little monk and tossed him into his backpack, thinking of a countermeasure. Jiang He entered deep thought. It seemed like he had underestimated Xiao Chen. This person was far more terrifying than he imagined. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "I was the one who brought the Heavenly Book scholar here. If we are talking about trouble, it should be me who implicated you." He could not bear to watch. Xiao Chen turned around and looked at Hope. His eyes were like clear water, calm and unperturbed. It was like a startled swan, and everywhere it passed, it left behind a mist of light. In the night sky, he looked like a jade ribbon falling from the sky, drifting in the tranquil night. What exactly happened? To think that a place of pleasure like the Smiling Daughter Pavilion would send out its warship. In the past, Xiao Chen had the heaven-bewildering formation, which could erase the heavenly mysteries, so he did not have to worry about being surrounded and attacked. Xiao Chen could vaguely see several young women on the brightly lit warship. They played all sorts of exquisite musical instruments. Their swaying figures reflected hazy jade-green figures in the warship's lights. The problem now was not something that could be resolved by tearing down one warship. Upon hearing this roar, everyone immediately understood why they were here. Buzz! All the cultivators who were paying attention to this scene were completely shocked. This was really frightening. The infant stood on the stone table and looked up at the sky, revealing lofty sentiments on his face. I have to go and take a look. The Jiang clan's purple thunder warship was like a resplendent pearl, its burning light rivaling the moon. It's the ghostly shadow bandit. Of these warships, which one is the weakest? Xiao Chen asked. Jiang, he was the one who provoked this enemy. It should not be this weak. Anyone with a good eye could tell that the killing intent and offensive power mixed in the sound waves could instantly kill an early-stage holy venerate. Cultivators might be more agile than warships and have greater explosive speed. However, competing with warships in endurance was just seeking death. The Smiling Daughter Pavilion's warship. Standing in the clouds, Xiao Chen looked down at the surroundings. The crystalline jade warship looked like an immortal boat. However, it was actually extremely fast. However, in the next moment, the sound of two treasured sabers being drawn was even more intoxicating than the beautiful music of countless musical instruments. This cleared up many people's doubts. A cold light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes as he said, "Snatch the warship." Xiao Chen thought back to the Heavenly Mystery Tower's divine crystal and the mysterious kidnapping of the Heavenly Book scholar. Big brothers, don't be afraid. I'll tear down a warship and open a path for you. Suddenly, a ferocious roar came from the Jiang clan's purple thunder warship, echoing in the night sky. Two people? Ghostly shadow bandit, you will definitely die today. Bang. Even from 500 kilometers away, Xiao Chen could feel the strong fighting spirit spreading out from that ancient warship. Jiang, he said somewhat helplessly, sorry, I implicated you. I did not expect the matter to blow up so much. Regardless of whether it was the handsome white-clothed young man who gave off a cold and arrogant aura, or the gray-clothed young man who had a trace of a cynical smile on the corners of his mouth, neither of them retreated at all. The people who rushed over to watch the commotion looked up. Under the full moon, the two figures looked like they came out of a painting. A cold snort came from the Jade Light Pavilion's warship. A pretty woman on the warship said coldly, "You are seeking death. Just injure them. None of these two people are allowed to die." The warships of the various factions had already locked onto this place and sealed off all the paths. Come, come, come. Let's go over and take a look. Jiang, he asked. The Heavenly Mystery Tower, the Sun-Moon Pavilion, the Thunder Cloud Sect, and the Jade Water Mountain Manor. They are all the top factions of our soaring dragon Marquiate. What happened? The Smiling Daughter Pavilion is a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons, with many experts. If there were no experts holding down the place, it would have been overturned long ago. The gentleness was heartbreakingly beautiful. Xiao Chen could not help getting intoxicated. He only slowly opened his eyes when the song ended. What was even more horrifying was that these warships all headed in the same direction. A melodious, clear, and pleasing voice came from the brightly lit warship, sounding like the rumbling war drums. The night was no longer there, only this light illuminating the surroundings. This is just a surprise. A place of romance like the Smiling Daughter Pavilion rarely gets angry. I really wonder who could be so startling as to anger the Smiling Daughter Pavilion. Since these people made up their minds, they no longer hesitated. Not to mention whether the little monk could tear down the warship or not. Even if he could, the other warships would quickly seal the gap. There was simply no way to run. It would be difficult to escape from under the noses of others. Chapter 1850. Two strands of saber light swept out. In an instant, the ferocious, surging sound wave attacks that tore through the flood did not lose any momentum. The two infused their wills of soul and saber Dao great Dao energy into their saber strike. Hence, the instant they drew their sabers, the might was terrifyingly strong. The two strands of saber light were like two blazing suns competing in the night sky, lighting up this dark world. Kill. After breaking the sound wave attacks of 100 musical instruments on the fortress ship with one strike, the two's auras flourished as a rainbow as they quickly descended towards the fortress ship. The two's thinking was very simple. The music Dao attacks were not strong in terms of sound alone. If he couldn't interrupt the other party's rhythm with a single strike, then he would lose. If they could not break the other party's rhythm with one strike, they would be in big trouble. Even if the two had incredible means, they would be helpless. In fact, they might even sink deep into it, unable to extricate themselves and unable to escape. Without needing to communicate, the two knew what to do. There was only one choice: end the battle quickly and go all out. The pretty woman in the fortress ship was the headmistress of Soaring Dragon City's Smiling Daughter Pavilion. Her stage name was once Qiushu. Now, people addressed her as Headmistress Shui. At this moment, the two strands of saber light already tore through the sound waves and crashed into the fortress ship. Boom! The saber light clashed intensely with the fortress ship's shield. Amid loud rumbling, the entire fortress ship shook. Many musical instruments fell to the ground. The graceful women also felt dizzy and panicked. Ding! At the crucial moment, Headmistress Shui sat on the ship's roof and quickly played her fingers. In one breath, Headmistress Shui played hundreds of melodious tunes at a dazzling speed. The flustered woman in the fortress ship quickly stabilized her emotions. Then, she played the musical instrument in her hand according to Headmistress Shui's tunes. A song of intoxicating beauty, where can one find a bosom friend? A song of cold autumn waters, who says that spring surpasses the autumn wind? Fallen leaves fill the sky with hundreds of flowers. A song of heartbreak, flowers scatter and fill the sky. Who will pity the beauty of the red fades? A song of heartbreak, how can one recall the past from the beginning? Cutting flowers and laughing, the shadow of the lantern grows thin. Now the red conch grows sad. Can one remember the bright moon and beautiful clothes? As hundreds of musical instruments rang out again, Headliner Shui used her heavenly voice to sing an extremely sorrowful song. It's the death of beauty. This is one of Fairy Blue Lotus's legendary divine melodies. Headliner Shui is truly fierce to be able to remain calm in the face of danger. Not only did they stop the ghostly Shadow Fiend duo's momentum, but they also launched a beautiful counterattack. Truly amazing! This song is really nice to listen to. Headliner Shui is truly worthy of being the imperial capital's courtesan belle of the past. Sincere and skillful, worthy of admiration. As long as I can drag this out, it doesn't matter whether or not the two fiends can break this song. If the warships from other places surround them, the ghostly shadow fiends will die for sure. The ghostly shadow bandit mysteriously turned into two people. The cultivators below had no choice but to change the way they addressed him. Of course, it wasn't a good name. Ghostly Shadow Fiend Duo. We can't continue like this. If we do it again, the melody will become even more impassioned, and we will definitely die. The moment Headliner Shui's zither rang out, she started playing the death of a beauty. Xiao Chen's and Jiang He's attacks immediately stopped. They could not break through and board the fortress ship. On the contrary, he had suffered quite a bit of injury. The sound waves injured both the mind and the body. Their internal organs suffered formless damage from the sound waves containing soul energy. This went without saying for their souls. Their clothes were dyed red with blood in an instant. Their bodies were covered in scars left behind by the sound wave. This showed the sharpness of the sound waves and the density of their attack. They were extremely horrifying. Headliner Shui's fingers danced continuously on the fortress ship's high platform, changing unpredictably as she led the tune of the entire ship. Together with the formations in the fortress ship, she brought out the might of the death of a beauty to its limits. Right now, Headliner Shui not only wanted to stop the two, but also wanted to end the ghostly Shadow Bandit and retrieve the Smiling Daughter Pavilion's lost fairy basket. While it might just be an imitation, if a competitor obtained it and refined it into a similar treasure, it would be a huge hidden danger. That would be a huge hidden danger to the Smiling Daughter Pavilion. Just as the tune changed again, Xiao Chen and Jiang He exchanged looks, each having a plan in their hearts. Xiao Chen instantly executed the dragon tone art. The formless dragon might in his body gathered in his chest, forming a huge whirlpool. At this moment, Xiao Chen activated 30% of his blue dragon bloodline, increasing the might of the whirlpool of dragon might. The winds and clouds above suddenly changed. A strong wind blew, and the formless dragon chi formed a gigantic dragon head. The instant Xiao Chen roared, Jiang He opened his mouth and let out a terrifying dragon roar. On the other side, Jiang He roared at nearly the same time as Xiao Chen. However, Jiang He used a different kind of dragon tone secret technique. Compared to Xiao Chen's resounding dragon roar, Jiang He's was sharper and had a smaller range. However, it was more focused. Boom! The two heaven dragon roars merged. Jiang He's dragon roar pierced the fortress ship's shield, and Xiao Chen's sonorous dragon roar followed closely behind, sweeping through the entire fortress ship. Bang! 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 Immediately, the strings of the instruments on the fortress ship broke one by one, and the flutes exploded. The musicians all vomited a mouthful of blood, suffering a huge backlash. Xiao Chen and Jiang He took this opportunity to land on the deck. Whoosh! Cold lights flickered endlessly. The musicians on the ship did not just sit there and wait for death. They drew cold swords from their instruments and quickly stabbed at Xiao Chen and Jiang He. The two faced their enemies on their own. As Xiao Chen circulated his primal chaos veritable essence energy, the Taiji force field appeared, working together with the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations. Xiao Chen's figure flickered. None of the people who came to block him could last a single move. After the musicians lost their instruments, their combat prowess would definitely plummet. Clearly, they were far inferior to Xiao Chen in close combat. On the other side, Jiang He's figure became even more fleeting. As his figure flickered, he left behind many mysterious and unfathomable black shadows. He was so fast that no one could discover his true body. So, this was how he got the nickname Ghostly Shadow. Not only that, but his saber light became even more tyrannical. A tyrannical aura flowed on his saber, showing no mercy. The musicians that Jiang He injured were all severely injured, instantly losing their combat prowess. After about 15 minutes, the two stood together again. Now, only headliner Xue remained among the musicians on the ship, standing high up. You! As headliner Xue looked at the many severely injured musicians on the ship, she trembled in anger. She had not expected such a situation to occur. Not only did she fail to capture the ghostly Shadow Fiend duo, but the girls on her side were also severely injured. Fortunately, Xiao Chen and Jiang He were not bloodthirsty people. Otherwise, none of them would have survived. However, such a miserable situation still startled headliner Xue. She said sullenly, "All of you have to die." After saying that, headliner Xue took out the fairy basket, the Smiling Daughter Pavilion's soul tool. Crack! However, Xiao Chen had long since prepared for this. He knocked an arrow and let go before headliner Xue could. The arrow that flew out of the god's shadow bow moved at lightning speed, pinning this wholly venerate headliner Xue to the ship. The fairy basket in headliner Xue's hand fell to the ground, no longer having a chance to execute it. Xiao Chen only sought speed in this arrow and did not infuse much soul energy into it. Otherwise, this headliner Xue would not just be like this. She would have died on the spot. Whoosh! Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he arrived at the watchtower on the tall platform. Then, he pulled out the arrow. Blood immediately spurted out. Headliner Xue's tender skin drained of all color. She appeared haggard, severely injured both in her physical body and soul. Xiao Chen raised his foot and kicked the fairy basket up. Then, he held it in his hand and returned it to headliner Xue. Startled cries rang out continuously on the ship. Jiang He infused some energy into the many young girls and tossed them off the ship. The girls that he tossed off would not be in any danger of dying, falling to their deaths. Although the ghostly shadow bandit had stolen countless treasures, he did not have the hobby of killing people for fun. He was just somewhat frivolous and heartless. Ah, girls are falling from the sky. Catch them. The ghostly shadow bandit laughed as he tossed the girls off the ship, eliciting startled cries from below. Damn! Girls really fell. They are the musicians of the Smiling Daughter Pavilion. They are all great beauties. Quick, quick, pick one up and take her back as your wife. Ah! What's the rush? They are all musicians of the Smiling Daughter Pavilion. Do you really dare to force yourself on them? What do you know? Don't you know what it means to be a hero saving a damsel in distress? Damn! Don't block me! Ghostly shadow fiend duo. Quick, quick, toss a few more down. Such actions stirred up a huge commotion among the thousands of cultivators below. Thousands of people soared into the air in the night, waiting for the beauties to be tossed off the ship. Such a scene was rare to see even in 1,000 years. You are all shameless, despicable hooligans. Headliner Shwe hugged the fairy basket as she pointed at the two. Tears leaked out of her poorly beautiful face as her entire body trembled as she cursed angrily. However, before Headliner Shwe finished, she let out a startled cry. Someone had tossed her down as well. Stop playing around. I'll cover the rear. You go to the control room, Xiao Chen said softly from the watchtower. Then, he continued drawing his bow and looked at the warship that was still some distance away. He got it. Jiang He clapped his hands and tossed the last two beauties down. Then, he rushed to the control room. Chapter 1851. As Xiao Chen held the god shadow bow from the crow's nest, he could see every warship within hundreds of kilometers clearly. Ever since Xiao Chen obtained the god shadow bow, he had never brought out even a tenth of its might. Even he did not know how great the potential of this bow was. The earlier arrow only drew the bow slightly. Before the bowstring was drawn, it severely injured a holy venerate on the spot. After advancing to middle stage star venerate, Xiao Chen's soul energy had increased significantly. That earlier arrow had not drained much of his soul energy. Xiao Chen felt some anticipation, so he infused the rest of his soul energy into the bow. He wondered how much might it could bring out. Could it bring out its second form, spreading its divine wings, like when it faced the heavenly book scholar? The fortress ship had already started moving. Under Jiang He's control, it quickly headed out of the city. With this fortress ship, Jiang He no longer had to fear the pursuit of the warships behind. He could compete with them in terms of endurance. Damn it! We absolutely cannot let them get away. After them. The Jiang clan's Purple Thunder warship took the lead and gave chase. War drums shook the sky and electric light shot out, illuminating the surroundings in a purple haze. A formation above the warship continuously absorbed the surrounding lightning-attributed energy. The lightning-attributed energy gathered into a resplendent ball of lightning, containing horrifying energy and startling might. The ball of lightning could shoot out at any moment. However, as the fortress ship Xiao Chen was on belonged to the Smiling Daughter Pavilion, the Jiang clan had some misgivings. If they destroyed the other party's fortress ship, the Jiang clan would not know what to do after this, so they hesitated. Before the very last moment it was best not to release it. After all, there was still a chance to catch up. You then. While the Jiang clan's people hesitated, Xiao Chen did not. He drew the bowstring, and a divine figure seemed to flash in the sky. The moment Xiao Chen let go, that ball of lightning instantly exploded. The speed of the arrow surpassed human thought. It was as if the moment Xiao Chen let go, the huge and horrifying ball of lightning was struck by the arrow. The energy contained in the god Shadow Bow's arrow detonated the ball of lightning. In an instant, the Jiang clan's warship appeared in the air. The warship turned into a resplendent firework, continuously giving off fiery light. Fireworks filled the sky, filling the night sky. Only the damaged main body of the Purple Thunder warship remained, on the verge of collapse. The Jiang clan cultivators on it had fled long ago. Joy and sorrow separated. The Jiang clan's people, who came in ferociously, obtained a result that no one expected. Stop, 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 stop. He has a soul tool in his hand. The other pursuing warships were frightened out of their wits. They were all stunned by the inconceivable scene of the Jiang clan's warship. Just a moment ago, the Purple Thunder warship was still in peak condition. How did it explode? How exactly did he break through the defense? What did he use? How did he detonate the thunderballs? It was truly frightening. The most frightening thing was that the Jiang family did not retaliate at all. Several holy venerates on the warship actually did not discover how the other party attacked and did not make a move to stop them. Tonight was destined to make everyone go crazy. The cultivators in Soaring Dragon City would not be able to forget this for many years to come. Of Chen of the Ghost of the Ling. First, they threw out the Smiling Daughter Pavilion's beauties, causing chaos everywhere. Even now, it was still not over. Then, they shot out an arrow and detonated the Purple Thunder warship. Everyone could not recover from the shock. Brother Xiao, things are not good. The Marquis' residence's people are here as well. Jiang, he said somewhat anxiously as he controlled the situation. With such a huge commotion, it would be hard for the city guards not to show up. However, given the current situation, it would be difficult for the city guards to control the situation. Actually, the city guards had been observing in secret from the very start. The city lord's residence was optimistic about the various factions of the Soaring Dragon Marquis surrounding the ghostly Shadow Bandit. They did not mind the two sides fighting. To the Soaring Dragon Marquisite's lord, weakening some of the clans and sects in the city would not only be a huge benefit, but it would also be a happy outcome. This would further strengthen the Marquis' residence's control. That was what it meant when the Marquis' residence grew stronger. However, now that the situation was completely out of control, they had to show themselves to stabilize the chaos. Abandoned ship. Xiao Qin looked around and discovered the city lord's residence's warships in every direction of the city gates. He was somewhat surprised that the city lord's residence would participate as well. Such a fight between factions did not affect the interests of the city lord's residence. Normally, the smart people would choose to watch from the sidelines. Xiao Qin and Jiang he immediately decided to abandon the warship. They chose the most chaotic place on the ground as a foothold. The cultivators below seemed to have gone crazy, fighting in a chaotic manner. They all asked where the Smiling Daughter Pavilion's musicians that the ghostly Shadow Fiend duo had left behind were. Jiang he felt somewhat rueful and surprised. He just did not want to kill those musicians. Who would have thought that it would create such a chaotic situation? Quick, quick, quick. Everyone, quickly give chase. Ku Yejian snatched away a beautiful musician. Don't let him escape. There is someone over there as well. Why can't I catch him? Everyone, quickly look. That's Headliner Shui. She got tossed down as well. Headliner Shui, don't be afraid. I'll protect you. No one can hurt you. You bunch of beasts. Don't go and hurt Headliner Shui. When the culprits, Xiao Qin and Jiang He landed, they showed somewhat ashamed expressions. Then, the two changed into large cloaks and left in a hurry. They simply did not know what would happen to them after they got caught. Just thinking about what would happen to them if they got caught made them tremble in fear. At this moment, the two only wanted to take advantage of the chaos to leave the city quietly. Ha! How interesting! How unfortunate! This little monk cannot break his lust abstinence. Otherwise, I would have tossed one or two pretty big sisters down as well. A small head poked out of the large cloak behind Xiao Qin as he spoke in a childish voice. Jiang he giggled and said, "You are known as the little demonic monk Silver Saber. Why have you not broken your lust abstinence yet? Don't mention this title. If you mention it again, I'll fall out with you." The little monk's baby-like face immediately turned incredibly embarrassed, turning red. "Ah, don't mention it, then." Xiao Qin could not help smiling. The little demonic monk Silver Saber was destined to be a pain in the little monk's life. A title ruining a life. At this moment, Xiao Chen and Jiang He moved through the chaotic crowd, appearing somewhat relaxed. Trying to find the two, who were deliberately hiding, was as difficult as ascending to heaven. Speaking of which, Jiang He's casual action created the conditions for the two to escape from a different angle. 1 hour later, Xiao Chen and Jiang He were already far away from the chaos. As the two walked on the empty street, the originally bustling street had long since emptied out due to the commotion caused by Xiao Chen and Jiang He. The street, which could fit 10-odd horse carriages side by side, appeared exceptionally cold and empty. Under the moonlight, Xiao Chen's and Jiang He's shadows stretched out on the empty street. The bright moon hung high in the cold, windy night. The two just walked like that, not saying a word. After the commotion, they returned to reality. After this parting, the two might be fighting each other the next time they met. Perhaps this would be the last time the two worked together. The two's hearts felt somewhat heavy. Fate was merciless, and fate made fools of people. Who could have imagined that the two had the goal of becoming the Dragon Emperor? Both of them bore a heavy burden that they could not easily show to others. As the wind blew, the fallen leaves on the street danced in the wind. Xiao Chen suddenly stopped walking. As he looked at the drifting fallen leaves, he entered deep thought. Sometimes it felt like a person's fate was like drifting fallen leaves. When a gust of wind blew from somewhere, one's body would involuntarily dance in the wind. At this moment, Jiang He also stopped walking. Fallen leaves should have returned to the dust. However, the merciless cold wind forced one's body to dance in the wind. The two were not sentimental people. Naturally, they could not stop because of the falling leaves dancing in the wind. At the end of his line of sight, there were rows of martial artists wearing the same style of armor, densely packed at the end of the road. These were a group of battle-hardened warriors with strong discipline. They also exuded a horrifying killing chi. The wind blew because of this. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, the armor trembled. The city guards in front took the initiative to open a path, and a man and a woman walked out. When the two approached, they discovered that they were the Heavenly Book Scholar and Lan Luo. Chapter 1852. When Xiao Chen and Jiang He saw Lan Luo and Tian Su appear together, it was not difficult for them to understand. Why did the two of them end up here the moment they appeared? This is really a big battle. We've just left the tiger's den, and we're already surrounded by a pack of wolves. Jiang He pursed his lips and smiled helplessly. The saber in his hand disappeared, replaced by a treasured saber that emanated a frightening aura. The black scabbard was engraved with dragon race motifs, looking mysterious and ancient. A soul tool. Jiang He also had his own soul tool. Or rather, it was clearly a soul tool related to the dragon race. The supreme treasure he stole from the dragon clan was this saber? However, now was not the time to think about this. Xiao Chen waved his hand to stop him from attacking further. Why, do you know him? Jiang He said doubtfully. After taking a closer look, he realized that there was indeed something wrong with the way the princess was looking at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen nodded. Sort of. Jiang He's grave face immediately revealed his signature smile. You're quite something. You even have a backer in the Marquis's residence. If I had known earlier, I would have just gone to the Marquis's mansion directly. There was no need to go through all this trouble. Xiao Chen swapped out the mysterious dragon race saber in his hand, and the two chatted in soft voices. On the other side, the Heavenly Book Scholar appeared somewhat helpless. The Cluster Lord had forcefully dragged him to her side. While everyone's attention was on the ghostly Shadow Fiend duo, Lan Luo took the initiative to lead the city guards to block the Heavenly Book Scholar. Helpless, he had no choice but to divine Xiao Chen's and Lan Luo's positions. Princess, it's best not to offend these two. Let them go. In any case, there is no direct benefit to the Marquis's mansion. There is no need for a life and death struggle. Although the Heavenly Book Scholar had the bad habits of a Confucian scholar, he was not a sinister and vicious person. Xiao Chun and Jiang He's lives had nothing to do with him, but he did not want them to die because of him either. Who would have imagined that Lan Luo would ignore him? Instead, she headed straight for Xiao Chun. His footsteps were hurried, and he did not look like he was going to attack Xiao Chun and Jiang He at all. The Heavenly Book scholar felt stunned. Then, he suddenly understood something. Earlier, when he read Xiao Chen's character, he said that Xiao Chen would feel at ease if he stayed here. So this was the reason. Xiao Chen, you're already here. Aren't you going to ask if I'm here? Lan Luo said softly as she looked at Xiao Chen with some hidden bitterness. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and didn't know what to say. The little monk came out from under the cloak and immediately blushed. What a beautiful sister! When Lan Luo saw the little monk, her expression changed slightly. Then, she said in understanding, so, that is the case. No wonder you are not willing to meet me. Xiao Chen, what kind of person do you take me, Lan Luo, for? Even if we're just ordinary friends, there's no need to be so rude. You don't even have to greet me. Xiao Chen looked a little embarrassed. He really didn't know how to explain. Ha, you've misunderstood, Your Highness. This person is the little devil monk's silver saber. He mistakenly ate a heavenly treasure and obtained a heaven-sent opportunity to reconstruct his body. The Heavenly Book scholar walked over with a smile, helping Xiao Chen out of trouble. You still dare to mention it? Right after the Heavenly Book scholar spoke, the little monk flew into a rage. He immediately leaped out of the cloak and wanted to beat up the Heavenly Book scholar again. However, Xiao Chen clearly would not let the little monk continue messing around under such circumstances. Xiao Chen grabbed the little monk's little hand in the air and put him back. Now that the misunderstanding was resolved, it was Lan Luo's turn to be at a loss. Sorry, Xiao Chen smiled and said, it's fine. Is there any way? Cluster Lord, is there any way to send my friend out of the city? Now that the matter had returned to proper business, Lan Luo's expression recovered. She said softly, it's fine to send him out of the city. However, he has to hand over the treasures he stole in the city. This is what my father instructed me to do. I can't disobey him. No problem. Jiang He smiled carefreely, not bothering with Lan Luo at all. Then, he handed over all the treasures he stole in the city. In reality, a small part of the reason Jiang He stole the treasures of the various major factions was due to fortuitous encounters. The bigger reason was his interest and habit. After Lan Luo stated her conditions, Jiang He did not hesitate to do so. In any case, after avoiding this wave, if he really needed it in the future, he could just steal it back. Many thanks for Cluster Lord's kind intentions. Brother Xiao, we will meet again in the future. Jiang He showed a smile on his face as he turned and left, not lingering at all. Now that he turned around, the next time they met, he would be a friend and not an enemy. Lan Luo knew this very well, but Jiang He forced himself to remain expressionless as he drifted away in the night. Jiang He slowly went further away. His cold and lonely figure disappeared into the even lonelier and colder night. Just like that, he vanished. Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and sighed in his heart. He felt somewhat rueful, his emotions complicated. At this moment, Xiao Chen could not leave for now. Lan Luo had set up such a large entourage. Hence, he could not pretend that he had never been here. He felt apologetic. The Heavenly Book scholar performed a cupped fist salute and said, there should not be anything else for me to do now. I will take my leave first, lest the Heavenly Mystery Tower's people worry. Xiao Chen, although my words are not pleasant to hear, they are most likely correct. Why don't you think about it carefully? Goodbye. At some point in time, the elites of the city guards had vanished from the empty street. Now, only Xiao Chen and Lan Luo remained under the bright moon. That's not right. The little monk should be included as well. The two chatted casually as they walked along the street. Then, Xiao Chen gave a simple explanation of why he came to the Soaring Dragon Marquee. Back then, Shao Chun had come to Withered Leaf City mainly because he did not want to cause any trouble and waste time. He could only tell her the only place he knew in the Yanwu dynasty. Since coming here, he had encountered endless trouble, so he did not want to disturb Lan Luo. He only wanted to send the little monk back as soon as possible. After Lan Luo heard that, she felt relieved. However, she also felt somewhat disappointed. In that case, you are going to the Divine Dragon Empire in the end? Shao Chun nodded. If not for this little fellow, I might have already gone there. Why? Actually, you could have stayed in the Yanwu dynasty. With your talent and aptitude, the 8 noble clans and rank 7 sects would have been willing to accept you. The dynasty is vast. This is the stage for the outstanding talents of the great 1,000 realms, the powerful demonic geniuses. You can definitely make a name for yourself and not live in vain. Lan Luo felt confused. Why was Shao Chun so insistent on going to the Divine Dragon Empire? Clearly, there was still a gap between an empire and a dynasty. Could it be that Shao Chun feared the competition with the 8 noble clans and the outstanding talents of the royal clans in the dynasty? That was impossible. Given her understanding of Shao Chun, that was absolutely not the reason. After thinking about it, Lan Luo could only say that the Divine Dragon Empire was an extremely important place for Shao Chun. Perhaps it was a person or some place he was worried about. Lan Luo's words stirred up a slight ripple in Shao Chun's heart, making him feel excited. Indeed, the 4 dynasties were the dreams of all the outstanding talents of the great 1,000 realms. Only in these places could one reach the peak of cultivation, truly witness the most glorious era of the martial epoch. After several eras of development, the martial epoch was now in its golden age. As for the 4 dynasties, they held the most luck in the central great realm, attracting the outstanding talents of the various realms. All the proud people wanted to come and give it a try. As a cultivator, Shao Chun was naturally no exception. He wanted to see the true outstanding talents and demonic geniuses of this age. However, now was not the time. I will come, but not now. I have to go to the Divine Dragon Empire. Shao Chun said seriously. It is not convenient to explain the reason now. However, many thanks for Cluster Lord's kind intentions. Lan Luo smiled generously and said, There is no need to thank me between us. Don't treat me as a friend. There is no need to stand on ceremony. No matter what you decide, if you need help, I will definitely help you. Under the cool exterior, there was a trace of affection that could not be concealed. Shao Chun smiled bitterly and did not reply. However, in his heart, he added, If Lan Luo runs into any trouble, I will definitely help her without hesitation. The two casually chatted about the past and their experiences as they walked to the city lord's residence. Just as the two were about to enter, Lan Luo turned around and said with a smile, We got too engrossed in the conversation and nearly forgot about proper business. Before Shao Chun could ask, Lan Luo continued, My father would like to meet you. The Soaring Dragon Marquis wants to meet me? This is somewhat surprising. The Yanwu dynasty had 108 provinces, the opposite sex was conferred marquis, and the family was conferred kingship. Marquis was already the highest title in the dynasty, aside from the dynasty's king. The Soaring Dragon Marquis was considered a major character in the entire Yanwu dynasty. This was especially so for the Soaring Dragon Marquisate, an important land at the dynasty's borders. The Soaring Dragon Marquis's high status was even more obvious. Shao Chun did not know why such a major character wanted to meet him. After thinking about it, he concluded that it could only be because of the Cluster Lord. Chapter 1853. What's wrong? You don't want to see my father? Lan Luo asked, purposely showing a stern expression, clearly dissatisfied. Shao Chun replied softly, No. When do we meet? Tomorrow, then. It is already so late and you must be tired. All right. Under Lan Luo's arrangements, Shao Chun obtained a rather unique and quiet courtyard in the Marquis's residence. This made sense. This suited Xiao Chen's preferences. This night was indeed tiring. More accurately, he had not rested since he entered the heavenly mystery tower and got chased until now. Xiao Chen placed the little monk aside and lay on the bed. Then, he closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. However, Xiao Chen did not feel sleepy. As he lay on the bed, leaves fell outside the window, rustling like it was raining. Those were the leaves of the ancient tree in the courtyard. The night wind had blown them off. Falling leaves filled the sky like rain. Why can't I sleep? With something on my mind, I naturally could not sleep. Xiao Chen turned to the side and opened his eyes. Moonlight shone on the ground outside the window. Xiao Chen was no longer in the mood to sleep. He remained expressionless as his thoughts wandered. Xiao Chen was still thinking about what the heavenly book scholar said before he left. Although my words are unpleasant to hear, most of them are correct. Meng Qi sighed. The results of the heavenly book scholar's reading of Xiao Chen's character were not very good. However, it was as he said. If it were not accurate, there would not be so many people lining up to ask him to read them. However, based on the heavenly book scholar's reading of the little monk, regardless of the process, the little monk did obtain a great fortuitous encounter. Is my heart destined to be restless? The path of the Dragon Emperor was destined to be difficult. Xiao Chen did not care. What he cared about was whether he could meet Lu Ryue. The white dragon holy daughter was a peerless beauty. Even the dragon god crown prince was captivated by her. In the dead of night, if one did not feel sleepy, one would inevitably let one's imagination run wild and feel frustrated. Jiang He's words also appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. For some reason, they disrupted Xiao Chen's thoughts. Whoosh! Unable to sleep, Xiao Chen got up and put on his clothes. Then, he picked up his saber and casually walked out. Big brother Xiao, what are you doing? The little monk asked in a daze as he opened his eyes. Practice your saber. Go to sleep. The moonlight shone on the courtyard like water, adding a hazy veil to the scenery in the courtyard. Xiao Chen drew his tyrant saber and swung it casually. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. He was a little anxious, a little violent, and also a little resentful and unwilling. However, the more it was so, the more exquisite and gentle the saber light he swung out became. Have a tiger in your heart, sniffed the rose. Xiao Chen controlled his mental state very well, not letting his saber technique lose its finesse and order. Even if it is difficult to find peace in my heart, I just want to have a clear conscience. Hua! As the saber light swept out, Xiao Chen gently flicked it up. The perfectly straight tyrant saber condensed the moonlight in the garden into one beam and soared into the clouds. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and soared into the air. His white hair and robes fluttered in the wind. As he danced, boundless moonlight emanated from Xiao Chen's body. For a time, the moonlight in the courtyard was like flying snow, but also like flower petals dancing in the wind. The garden was filled with fallen flowers, like a beautiful painting. Xiao Chen hovered in the air, using his saber as a brush. His body was in the painting, but his heart was outside. If it is difficult to find peace in my heart, then who can understand me? Who can understand my many years of lonely persistence? Who can understand the heavy burden of reviving the blue dragon that I have to shoulder? Who can understand my determination to seek the moon? The moon was like hundreds of flowers dancing in the wind, filling the sky with falling flowers. No one appreciates this beautiful painting. No one in the painting understands me. Crack! A crisp cracking sound rang out. The painting shattered, light and shadow scattered, and the moonlight scattered. It was like a withered willow. No one pitied it, no one loved it. If it is difficult to find peace in my heart and I cannot find someone who understands me, what is the point of having a clear conscience? The night deepened and the chill intensified. Who pitied me for wearing thin clothes and facing the moon alone? Accompanied by the withered willow and the overflowing saber light, there was an indescribable sorrow. However, this sorrow did not turn into rage or hatred. One could be sad, one could be worried, but one could not be angry or hateful. Furthermore, one used the saber to create a dream, dreaming of fine wine and beautiful women. Beautiful women drank with me, beautiful women laughed with me. There was no sorrow or worry. When the flowers fell in the dream, someone admired them with me. If one did not understand the beauty of dreams, how could one use the saber as a dream as a dream? Under the mottled moonlight, an illusory scene appeared in the courtyard. There was someone drunk, someone laughing, someone dancing in the sky with the moon. One could not tell if this was real or fake, a dream or reality. If one could not find peace in this heart, then let one enter a dream and sleep forever, never opening one's eyes for 10,000 years. However, one had to wake up from a dream. The moment one opened one's eyes, it was not the beautiful dream disappearing, but the entire world slipping away from one's hands. A boundless disappointment filled one's heart. Could one continue to tightly grasp the saber in one's hand? Buzz! Suddenly, a boundless saber hum rang out in the courtyard. The saber in Xiao Chen's hand burned with a purple flame. When the purple flame scattered, the pitch-black saber turned a dreamy purple, like this was the true color of the tyrant saber. Xiao Chen tightly grasped the saber and swung it casually. The night that filled the courtyard scattered, and the purple saber light spread out like water. Xiao Chen's expression suddenly changed. Under the purple saber light, a black-clad man on the wall was forced out. "Who is it?" Whoosh! Xiao Chen thrust his saber, and the purple light that filled the courtyard gathered into one beam and shot out. That person cried out in shock. His figure flashed, but the saber light still pierced through his shoulder. That person gave Xiao Chen a strange look. Then, his figure flashed a few times as he quickly left. The night turned hazy, disappearing in the blink of an eye. It was like that person had never appeared. Only the lingering purple saber light in the air proved everything that happened earlier. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and frowned slightly. However, he did not give chase. This person could appear silently, only appearing unexpectedly after Xiao Chen activated the true form of the tyrant saber. This proved that this person was far stronger than Xiao Chen. However, he did not make a move. Clearly, he did not have any malicious intent. The Marquis's residence was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There were at least 10 people with such strength. If Xiao Chen gave chase and caused trouble, it would not be good. Now that Xiao Chen stopped thinking, he naturally could not continue brandishing his saber. Xiao Chen went to the stone table in the courtyard and gently placed the tyrant's saber on it. Then, he took out the 1,000-year flame and drank by himself. After brandishing his saber, Xiao Chen's restless emotions calmed down. After a few cups of fine wine, moonlight unknowingly enveloped him, and he fell asleep in a daze. When Xiao Chen opened his eyes again, piercing sunlight shone in, and his neck stiffened uncomfortably. This time, he found himself resting his chin on his hand as he slept for the entire night. "Young Master Xiao, sorry for the disturbance. The Marquis has prepared a family banquet and would like to invite young Master Xiao over. The Cluster Lord specially instructed me to entertain you." A slender and pretty maidservant stood outside the courtyard doors, speaking in a charming voice. Xiao Chen recovered his wits and replied, "Wait for a while. I'll go over after I wash up." After tidying up, Xiao Chen carried the little monk on his back and went to attend the family banquet under the maidservant's lead. Generally speaking, the grander family banquets were usually held in the evening. Since there was a family banquet in the morning, it meant that not many people would be invited. Aside from the Marquis's residence's heirs, there might be only Xiao Chen and the little monk. The Marquis's residence was very large, with winding corridors, fake mountains, and flowing rivers. It was like a maze crisscrossing each other. Without anyone to lead the way, one might really get lost in the maze, wandering around. On one of the corridors, Xiao Chen discovered a group of people marching in front. Their destination seemed to be the same as Xiao Chen's. However, Xiao Chen could tell that many of them were just attendants and guards. The true master was the youth in embroidered clothes leading the group. That youth was very handsome and easygoing. Xiao Chen could see a smile on his face. When this youth spoke to the maidservant leading the way, he did not put on an overbearing air at all, making that maidservant feel embarrassed. Aside from this, that youth also exuded a pressing air of nobility. However, his easygoing air covered up this air of nobility, making others feel close to him. Xiao Chen stopped and entered deep thought. There is nothing to mind about this person. Xiao Chen stopped because he discovered a relatively pure dynasty's luck on the other party's body. The 4 dynasties occupied the main dragon veins of the central Great Realm. All those with dynasty bloodlines could receive protection from the dragon veins. The pure one's bloodline was, the greater the dynasty's luck one received. With the protection of the luck of the Yanwu dynasty's vast territory, one's luck would be much stronger than that of ordinary people. Aside from that, the nobles conferred titles by the dynasty would also receive the protection of the luck of the dragon veins. For example, the soaring dragon marquis was conferred the title of marquis, second only to the imperial prince. After all, kings with different surnames were extremely rare in any dynasty. Normally, marquis was the highest rank. The soaring dragon marquis also had this luck. However, whether one could discover it or not was another matter. That is Monarch Yu. He was also invited to the clan banquet this time. I heard that he came specially for the young miss, wanting to invite her to join the rank 7 Divine Sword Pavilion. The maidservant leading the way stopped and smiled when she saw Xiao Chen's gaze. The maidservant seemed to understand this Monarch Yu very well. With just a casual question, she revealed a lot of information. Based on the maidservant's eyes, it seemed like she was very fond of this Monarch Yu. Rank 7 sects already stood at the peak of this world. Even in the entire Great Thousand Realms, the number of rank 7 sects could be counted on one hand. Even in the vast Yanwu dynasty there were probably only a few. The competition was exceptionally intense. Even the royal family would not receive any special treatment. For Monarch Yu to be so confident in inviting Lan Luo to join the Divine Sword Pavilion, his strength should not be weak. Without overthinking, Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "Continue leading the way, then." Chapter 1854. After some delay, Xiao Chen arrived at the Marquis's residence's main hall about 7 minutes later. Many people gathered in the main hall. Aside from the soaring dragon Marquis's children, there were also many Long clan disciples, all of whom were from the Long clan. It was clear that the Long clan was flourishing and had many people. This made sense. As a marquis, it would be strange if the clan was not flourishing. Monarch Yu's attendants and guards were scattered outside the main hall, standing together with the Marquis's residence's guards. Monarch Yu showed grave expressions, not letting down his guard just because he was in the Marquis's residence. The family banquet in the main hall had not started yet. Monarch Yu was the son of a duke, possessing the royal clan's bloodline and a noble status. However, he was easygoing and polite. His bearing and boldness were praiseworthy. Currently, Monarch Yu was chatting with a youth. That youth looked somewhat similar to Lan Luo and was also older. He should be Lan Luo's older brother. The Long clan disciples surrounded the two, chatting happily. However, Monarch Yu dominated the spotlight. Most people's gazes landed on him. This was especially so for the many women. Their eyes gleamed with admiration, not hiding it at all. "Young Master Xiao, we have arrived." The maidservant leading the way bowed obediently. Before the maidservant left, she gave Monarch Yu a bashful look before taking her leave. The little monk lay on Xiao Chen's shoulder, looking around curiously. He looked very cute. One adult and one child entered the main hall. This immediately attracted countless gazes. Many people showed curious expressions. Aside from Monarch Yu, why was there an outsider at the Long clan's family banquet? "You are?" The youth chatting with Monarch Yu asked from afar without standing up. Whoosh! Many gazes immediately focused on Xiao Chun. The bustling hall turned quiet. Big brother, he is Xiao Chun, the person I told you about. Father specially invited him here. Without waiting for Xiao Chun to reply, Lan Luo stood up and made the introductions, leading Xiao Chun over. To think that you dare to enter the Dragon Marquis's residence. Long clan guards, take him down. A familiar figure appeared among the Long clan disciples. This person could not hide his murderous intent as he pointed at Xiao Chun. Longbow? Xiao Chun recalled that this person was the young Marquis who had sent someone to assassinate him in the Soaring Dragon Great World. He seemed to be Lan Luo's seventh brother. Xiao Chun remembered that he had clearly killed him. However, it was not strange. At that time, he had left in a hurry and did not finish him off. With the resources of the princess's residence and the presence of some experts, it was not surprising that they were able to save him. Swish, swish, swish. A group of guards appeared outside the door and surrounded Xiao Chun without any explanation. However, Xiao Chun did not make a move. He only looked at the youth beside Monarch Yu. Clearly, Lan Luo's eldest brother was the one with more prestige here. Let's go. There's nothing here. Lan Luo's first brother waved his hand and dismissed the guard. Then, he said indifferently, Seventh brother, young Master Xiao is an honored guest that Imperial Father specially invited. Watch your words. Otherwise, I don't mind kicking you out. Long Bow's expression was quite sullen. His enemy was right in front of him, but he was his father's honored guest. He couldn't even take down Xiao Chun in his own home. Don't be arrogant. Sooner or later, I will teach you a lesson. Long Bow waved his hand and withdrew with a resentful expression. Xiao Chun said indifferently, I don't mind killing you again. Whoosh. Right after Xiao Chun spoke, a huge commotion immediately broke out, shocking the Long clan disciples. Then, the shock turned into enmity. For Xiao Chun to say such words in front of the Long clan in the Marquis's residence was somewhat mocking. Even Lan Luo's eldest brother felt somewhat embarrassed, stunned for a moment. It looks like I am not very welcome. Goodbye. Xiao Chun had always been a decisive person. When he saw the expressions of the others, he was not willing to remain here. Had he known that this Long Bow would be here, he would have rejected him from the start. However, it was clear that someone was not willing to let Xiao Chun leave. Young Master Xiao, please wait. Since you received the Marquis's residence's invitation, you will be too disrespectful to the Marquis if you leave now. The Marquis's residence rarely invites outsiders to its banquet. Young Master Xiao, please think about it. Monarch Yu said slowly as he held a cup of tea. Immediately, the many Long clan disciples burst into an uproar. It turned out that this person was protected by the Marquis's residence. He was truly too arrogant and unreasonable. Monarch Yu's simple words instantly isolated Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun thought for a while. If he left the banquet, it would indeed be disrespectful to the Marquis whom he had not met yet. This put Lan Luo in a difficult position. Then, Xiao Chun turned around and found a corner to sit beside Lan Luo again. When Lan Luo saw Xiao Chun sit down, she heaved a clear sigh of relief. Xiao Chun, it has been hard on you, Lan Luo sent a voice projection. She had good intentions, but she had not expected things to turn out like this. It's fine. I did not handle it well. There was indeed no need to get angry at an existence like Long Bow. Xiao Chun already felt much more at ease. Haha. Everyone is here. At this moment, a middle-aged man with white hair at the temples walked in. He was wearing armor and strode in. Father. Third uncle. Lord Marquis. Everyone at the table stood up and greeted this person. Needless to say, this person was the overlord of the Soaring Dragon Marquis, the Soaring Dragon Marquis. However, the Soaring Dragon Marquis looked ordinary, only exuding the might of a general. There was nothing special about him, which was rather strange. I have been busy with military matters and rarely eat with everyone. Today there are 2 honored guests coming to the banquet. Come, let me offer a toast to the two of you. The soaring dragon marquis was rather straightforward. After indicating for everyone to sit down, he stood up and offered a toast to Shao Qin and Monarch Yu. Shao Qin and Monarch Yu did not dare to be slow. They stood up at the same time and drained the wine in their cups in one go. Thank you, Lord Marquis, for your hospitality. The two took their seats and put down their wine cup. The banquet officially began. Delicacies that were not sumptuous but had great value were served up. At the table, the soaring dragon marquis did not pay any attention to Shao Qin and Monarch Yu. As they chatted, they only talked about family matters and other minor matters. Your father does not put on any airs, Shao Qin said to Lan Luo, who was beside him. However, Lan Luo replied somewhat helplessly, in my impression, he has always been like this. He is neither warm nor cold to everything. You will never be able to see the true thoughts in your heart. I can't see through them either. For example, the soaring dragon marquis had clearly called Shao Qin over on purpose. However, he did not say anything to Shao Qin during the banquet. This disappointed Lan Luo, as well as a faint sense of disappointment. I heard that Monarch Yu wants to invite you to join the Divine Sword Pavilion. Shao Qin missed this topic and changed the topic. A bright light flashed in Lan Luo's eyes. What's wrong? Are you interested? Let's go together. The Divine Sword Pavilion is one of the few rank 7 sects in the Yanwu dynasty. Many of their disciples are powerful demonic geniuses who can rank on the martial monarch ranking. Shao Qin smiled and said, I am a bladesman. How can I go to the Divine Sword Pavilion? That's true. I nearly forgot about that. Lan Luo frowned, appearing somewhat vexed. In that case, I won't go either. On the other side, Monarch Yu looked at Lan Luo, who was conversing intimately with Shao Qin. A hard-to-detect cold light flashed in his eyes. Soon, someone suddenly stood up and offered a toast to Shao Qin. Young Master Shao, you came from afar. Long Yun offers you a toast. Since someone offered him a toast, he naturally had to return the favor. After a cup of wine, Long Yun asked, Young Master Shao received second uncle's invitation at the same time as Monarch Yu. I believe you also come from a prestigious clan, right? Shao Qin replied indifferently, No, I am just a loose cultivator. This is my first time in the Central Great Realm. These words caused another uproar. It was actually a rogue cultivator without a sect or sect. Furthermore, he had only just arrived in the Central Great Realm. In their eyes, such a person was simply a country bumpkin. When the others thought of themselves, they couldn't believe that they were sitting and eating with someone of such status. Their expressions couldn't help but turn a little weird. Monarch Yu revealed a surprised expression. Unexpectedly, one of the ghostly Shadow Fiend duo, who caused a commotion last night, has just arrived in the Central Great Realm. The ghostly Shadow Fiend duo. Monarch Yu's casual words successfully caused the expressions of these Long clan disciples to change again. This fellow did not speak much, but his words were filled with thorns, trying to isolate them. When the Long clan disciples thought about it, they found it somewhat funny. The so-called monarch's breadth of mind and boldness were only so. Chapter 1855. The seemingly ordinary family banquet was actually surging. Monarch Yu succeeded in setting the tempo. This made everyone in the Long family view Shao Qin with hostility and coldness. Shao Qin found it a little strange, but he didn't think too much about it. In the banquet, when Lan Luo's big brother saw the situation develop to this point, he shook his head and did not say anything. Long Yin, while I'm not around, have you neglected the cultivation of the Long family disciples? When the family banquet was about to end, the soaring dragon marquis looked at Lan Luo's eldest brother and asked in a serious tone. My Long family has been famous for our bravery since the founding of the dynasty. We have never dared to forget the teachings of our ancestors. Father, you can check at any time. The disciples of the Long family have never slacked off, nor do they dare to slack off. Long Yen answered calmly and confidently. Draco nodded his head in satisfaction. A person's innate talent and comprehension are different from birth. Comprehension cannot be forced. I will never force it. My Long family can have trash bodies, but we cannot have lazy people. The soaring dragon Marquis's gaze shifted to Long Yen as he continued, after the family banquet, I will conduct an inspection at the drill grounds. Anyone who passes my eyes will be rewarded. On the contrary, I will not punish you. I will only punish you, Long Yen. Long Yen gladly accepted the order, not caring about these somewhat demanding conditions. The Long family disciples heard the soaring dragon Marquis's words. Their faces were filled with excitement and anticipation. Everyone had a competitive heart. Coupled with the fact that he would receive a reward from his father, it was hard for him not to be excited. Monarch Yu and Xiao Qin, come along as well. The soaring dragon Marquis invited as he looked at Xiao Qin and Monarch Yu. His tone was relaxed and seemed easygoing, but there was a hint of irrefutability in it. My pleasure. My father has always told me that the soaring dragon Marquis has a strict upbringing. After standing in the north for so many years, I definitely have to take a good look. Monarch Yu smiled faintly and dealt with the situation easily. Xiao Qin thought for a while. He was prepared to leave after the family banquet. The soaring dragon Marquis's invitation put him in a difficult position. Xiao Qin, Luo'er told me about your matter. I contacted the Hidden Spirit Temple's abbot last night. They will send people to bring little monk Yen Qin back. At the same time, they will convey my thanks to you. The Hidden Spirit Temple owes you a favor. The soaring dragon Marquis seemed to have guessed what Xiao Qin was thinking. What? These words immediately shocked the disciples of the Long family, and they revealed expressions of extreme disbelief. Monarch Yu's words had already caused their impression of Xiao Qin to plummet. They now felt that he was just a country bumpkin who had just arrived in the central great realm. He didn't belong to any sect, so there was no need to treat him too well. There were too many people like this. In the entire Great Thousand Realms, everyone took pride in being in the central Great Realm. This was the center of the martial epoch. The 4 dynasties and the many empires dominated the direction of the entire martial epoch. As the descendants of the Yenwu dynasty's soaring dragon Marquis, they were very proud. There was no need to criticize them. After all, they had the capital to do so in the first place. After leaving the central Great Realm, no matter where they went, they would receive the highest treatment. However, the soaring dragon Marquis's casual words made them flabbergasted. The abbot of the Buddhist sect's Hidden Spirit Temple, who did not care about worldly matters, actually said that the Hidden Spirit Temple owed Xiao Qin a favor. Not to mention how strong the abbot was, the Hidden Spirit Temple itself was an existence that surpassed rank 7 sections. Its history was even longer than that of a dynasty. To think that such a holy land owed Xiao Qin a favor. How could they not be shocked? At the same time, they felt dissatisfied in their hearts. How could such a person make the Hidden Spirit Temple owe him a favor? Everyone here was a proud person. When they suddenly heard these words, they could not help feeling competitive. Even Monarch Yu's calm expression changed slightly. As he looked at Xiao Qin, his expression turned strange. Master is coming? This is really great. The little monk had been looking at the good wine and dishes on the table but could not eat them, only salivating. When the little monk heard this, he felt pleasantly surprised and excited. Under such circumstances, Xiao Qin could not refuse, so he could only agree. The family banquet came to an end. The group arrived at the Marquis's residence's drill ground. The drill ground required an extremely vast area. It was normally used for the army to gather soldiers, so it was a military location. It would be more accurate to describe the drill ground of the Marquis's residence as a drill ground. However, the soaring dragon Marquis guarded this area. The soaring dragon Marquis was not only a Marquis but also a general appointed by the royal clan, guarding the borders. Everyone in the Long clan was used to calling this drill ground a drill ground because of the soaring dragon Marquis's character. During this time, Long Yen purposely slowed down his pace, walking together with Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun, do you know why my father specially invited you to the family banquet? Xiao Chun had long noticed that something was strange. If Xiao Chun wanted to meet him, it would have been better if they met in private. There was no need to meet at the family banquet. However, Xiao Chun did not care, so he did not ask. Now that Long Yen was willing to answer, it was naturally for the best. Brother Long, please enlighten me. Long Yan's gaze fell on Monarch Yu. At this moment, Monarch Yu was saying something to Lan Luo. Monarch Yu's expression looked very sincere. However, Lan Luo did not respond warmly. Monarch Yu. That's right. It is Monarch Yu. He is the son of a duke, a relative of the royal clan, and holds a noble status. His comprehension ability is even more incredible. He has an amiable character and a good reputation. After that, there is no after that. Long Yen smiled faintly and did not say anything more, leaving directly. This made Xiao Chun feel even more suspicious, causing him to frown slightly. Big brother, this fellow must be doing this on purpose, leaving things halfway. Is there anything more annoying than this? The little monk said, feeling aggrieved. Xiao Chun said softly, do whatever you want. I'll deal with it when it comes. I won't be staying here for long. After sending you off, I'll leave immediately. Xiao Chun was very open about many things now, not caring about them. When Xiao Chun arrived at the drill ground, the Long clan disciples eagerly searched for suitable weapons and started practicing. Long Yen accompanied his father, watching the performance of the Long clan disciples below from the tall platform. The Long clan disciples were indeed extraordinary. Xiao Chun looked around. The weakest was an early-stage star venerate. Many of them were even late-stage star venerates. As for that Long Yen, Xiao Chun guessed that he had already broken through the shackles of a star venerate due to his older age. After becoming a holy venerate, he would be an outstanding talent among the outstanding talents of the Long clan. While in the drill ground, Xiao Chun surprisingly discovered a shooting range. Several Long clan disciples were drawing their bows and shooting arrows. The setup of this shooting range was very complicated. There were formations on the ground, either increasing gravity or creating a weightless environment, testing the strength of the archers. In the depths, one could easily simulate all sorts of harsh environment. The starry heavens, a forbidden sea, a land of lava, and a 5,000-kilometer-long glacier. Excellent archery. He reached the 10th ring again. Incredible. Third brother truly lives up to being the top archer of our Long clan disciples. His archery skills are becoming increasingly exquisite. Even under 20-fold gravity and 10 kilometers away, he can still firmly hit the 10th ring. The Long clan disciples surrounded a youth, praising him. Just at this moment, Monarch Yu and his subordinates walked over. The group immediately egged on Monarch Yu to shoot an arrow as well. The royal bloodline requires one to be proficient in the 6 arts from a young age. Monarch Yu's archery skills must be extraordinary. Right, Monarch Yu, let us broaden our horizons, Long Hua said. Long Hua, Lan Luo's third brother, also said in admiration. Monarch Yu said softly, my skills are insignificant. How could I dare to embarrass myself? Feng Tian, show the Long clan disciples what you are capable of. Yes. A subordinate walked out from behind Monarch Yu and took a bow from Long Hua. Then, he stood still and casually shot an arrow. A piercing sound soared into the clouds, kicking up strong winds that swept through the entire drill ground, attracting everyone's attention. Boom! With this arrow, the target, which was made of divine material, was directly shattered. The tail of the arrow continued to buzz as it landed 10 kilometers away. The second target also hit the 10th ring. This small display of skill immediately shocked everyone, shocking everyone. Sorry, I damaged your Long clan's target. Feng Tian appeared somewhat arrogant as he returned the bow to the somewhat distracted Long Hua. As he held the bow, he felt somewhat disappointed and frustrated. Earlier, Monarch Yu said that Feng Tian's skills were insignificant. How could he dare to embarrass himself? However, a random subordinate easily defeated Feng Tian. Wasn't Feng Tian saying that Feng Tian's skills were insignificant, yet he dared to embarrass himself? The other Long clan disciples could not empathize with Monarch Yu. They only felt even more admiration for him. For a follower to have such archery skills, it was truly amazing. Monarch Yu smiled faintly and headed to the other areas of the drill ground. The group of Long clan disciples quickly followed. Long Hua was the only one left in the empty shooting range with a bitter expression on his face. Just as Long Hua felt somewhat depressed and wanted to leave, he discovered that another person had appeared at the shooting range at some point in time. Xiao Chun held the Long clan's special goose dragon bow and drew the bowstring, testing it out. Honestly speaking, Xiao Chun was not an expert archer. He had not learned it properly either. His skills were all unorthodox. This was Xiao Chun's first time at a proper shooting range, so he was not used to it. When Long Hua saw Xiao Chun's skills, he smiled. With one look, it was clear that Xiao Chun was a novice. Indeed, when Xiao Chun shot his first arrow, the gravity pulled it down midway, causing it to wobble and fall to the ground. To think that you dare to embarrass yourself with such skills. Long Hua mocked and turned to leave. However, just as Long Hua was about to leave, he heard a dang sound. This was the sound of an arrow hitting the bull's eye. Long Hua was very familiar with this sound. Long Hua immediately turned around and discovered that Xiao Chen's second arrow had hit the bull's eye. The little monk stood at the side, clapping and cheering. Dang! 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 After familiarizing himself with the Long clan's special goose dragon bow, Xiao Chen hit the bull's eye with every arrow. The first arrow stuck to the tail of the second arrow, piercing through it before hitting the bull's eye. All 10 arrows hit the bull's eye smoothly and smoothly. When Long Hua saw this scene, he said with a sullen expression, "Disgusting. Your archery skills are clearly excellent, yet you pretend to be a novice before me. Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, making fun of me. You are indeed narrow-minded and extremely shameless. Ha ha. Little benefactor, you are really stupid. The person who defeated you was the one who hid his strength. What does that have to do with my big brother? This is just my big brother's first time at the shooting range and is not used to your Long clan's standard bow." The little monk said with disdain. "What do you mean?" Long Hua asked, feeling confused. Chapter 1856. Facing Long Hua's confusion, the little monk smiled and said, "You are indeed stupid. Look, who are the two people by his side now?" Long Hua looked at Monarch Yu doubtfully and saw that the two people by Monarch Yu's side had changed. The place where the Long clan disciples practiced their spear techniques was where Monarch Yu came. With Monarch Yu's arrival, that place immediately became the most bustling place in the drill ground. Not only did the Long clan disciples gather there, but even the guards of the Marquis's residence went over to join in the excitement. Another busybody encouraged Monarch Yu to show off his skills. Monarch Yu said a few humble words but still did not make a move, letting his follower show off his skills. That follower did not look shocking. However, his spear techniques were amazing. Even the best spear technique among the Long clan disciples did not last more than 10 moves against that follower. Many of the Marquis's residence's guards were itching to challenge him. However, they could only show off that follower's exquisite spear technique. Long Hua exclaimed in shock, "What incredible spear techniques! This is..." Monarch Yu simply could not figure out what was going on. Given his intelligence, it was indeed somewhat shocking for him to figure this out. The little monk's baby-like face showed disdain as he said, "Can't you tell? This monarch has many capable people under him. That person who competed with you earlier is someone with excellent archery skills, much stronger than you. He must have prepared this." Otherwise, do you think that just anyone's archery skills are that scary? Why? Long Hua asked, feeling confused. Monarch Yu found an expert archer to trample on him for no reason. Initially, Long Hua did not believe it. However, when he saw Monarch Yu casually walking around the drill ground, he inadvertently displayed a strong follower. The little monk frowned and looked up at Xiao Chen, who was beside him. Then, he asked in a daze, "Big brother, why?" Dang. Xiao Chen hit the bull's-eye again. He felt that this drill ground was rather useful. If he were to cultivate here for a month, his mediocre archery skills should be able to improve by leaps and bounds. If he found a good teacher from the Marquis's residence to teach him, he might even become an expert archer. "Little brat, it turns out that you don't know either," Long Hua muttered. Long Hua mumbled to himself as he came to Xiao Chen's side and asked, "Why exactly?" Xiao Chen placed the goose dragon bow on the table at the side and glanced at Monarch Yu. There was a hubbub of voices on the other side, and it was extremely lively. Cheers could be heard from time to time. "Anticipation, I guess." "What?" Xiao Chen explained. "There are thousands of people on the drill ground, including the Marquis Mansion's family warriors and the disciples of the opposite sex. When everyone wanted to see Monarch Yu's strength, he did not make a move. It's better to let your followers attack to shock the crowd and lure them away. The more you want him to make a move, the more he refuses to make a move. He's only letting his follower provoke everyone's interest. What do you expect in your heart now?" Long Hua replied without even thinking, "Naturally, I want to see Monarch Yu's own strength. Even his followers are so powerful. As the master, he must be even stronger." "That's right. Right now, he's trying to create this kind of anticipation and provoke your expectations to the extreme. Actually, do you have some other kind of anticipation in your heart? Since your follower is so powerful, you might not be as powerful. You want to see him make a fool of himself." Xiao Chen remained expressionless, not showing any fluctuations. However, he seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. Long Hua said somewhat embarrassedly, "Indeed, a little. I lost so miserably. Naturally, I feel somewhat unconvinced." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "Don't think that way. Otherwise, when he makes a move later, you will feel even more despair. This is the effect that he wants. When everyone's emotions are at their peak, he will pretend to make a move reluctantly. When he makes a move, he will shock everyone and make the others' respect for him reach new heights. It might even make them despair of being undefeatable, feeling respect in their defeat." "That's impossible." Long Hua felt somewhat incredulous. Xiao Chen's words had a huge impact on him. His pure heart could not accept this. This was simply too complicated. Right now, Long Hua felt somewhat dizzy. The little monk, who was not even taller than Xiao Chen's calf, rubbed his chin and nodded to himself. Big brother is really smart. He immediately figured out the crux of the problem. This Monarch Yu is also incredible. I can try using this move in the future. Long Hua's expression did not fade. He still did not believe it, or perhaps he was unwilling to believe it. He said, "Just to stand out, he wants to trample on all of us first? Why not? In the same era of the martial epoch, only the most resplendent star will be remembered by the later generations. The other stars can only adorn the night sky, making it even more resplendent and dazzling, making people feel even more respect and admiration. This is how the path of the martial epoch is. Isn't it the same in reality?" Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Right now, you are just unlucky to be in the same drill ground as him. However, will there really be people who think that way and then do it?" Long Hua thought about it carefully. If that was really the case, this person was too shrewd and scheming. Even after being purposely used as a stepping stone, he was still willing to worship the other party. A general success is built on 10,000 bones. This has been the case since ancient times. While this sentence seems very far away from us, in reality, it is happening all the time. To achieve one's goal, a few tricks and a few stepping stones are nothing. Every day, every hour, every moment, there are people who become stepping stones for others. Dang! Xiao Chen drew back the bowstring, and the arrow struck the bull's eye again. Then, he revealed a faint smile on his face. I can increase the gravity now. With my veritable essence energy, I can control the gravity by 20 times. If it were the Soul Slayer Bao, Xiao Qin would have no problem reaching the level of the archery expert under Monarch Yu. When Long Hua heard what Xiao Qin said, he felt his hair stand on end. Is this world really that scary? However, what is his purpose? Why is Monarch Yu doing this? Long Hua could not help asking. He already doubted Xiao Chen's words, so he could not help asking. Xiao Chen looked at the tall platform. The Marquis, Long Yen, and the upper echelon of the Marquis's residence could not help looking at Monarch Yu. It could not be helped. Nearly all the thousands of people in the drill ground gathered where Monarch Yu was. Monarch Yu looked very handsome and valiant. He held a noble status, but he was neither arrogant nor proud. Just his subordinates could make people applaud and praise him endlessly. If the people in the drill ground did not pay attention to him, who would they pay attention to? Could it be those lonely, lost, or disappointed stepping stones in the corners? Compared to the cheerful Monarch Yu, who had a gloomy expression and was dispirited and full of negative energy, who would they pay attention to? The answer went without saying. Xiao Chun thought about the excited Long clan disciples at the family banquet. At this moment, the outstanding talents among them were all like Long Hua, dispirited and dissatisfied. It was not that they were not outstanding enough. It was just that they ran into the even more outstanding Monarch Yu. This was originally a drill prepared for them. With Monarch Yu's means, the main character changed, becoming Xiao Chen himself. This allowed the soaring dragon Marquis and the upper echelon of the Marquis's residence to focus their gazes on him. They had somewhat forgotten the original purpose of this drill. After Long Hua heard what Xiao Chen said, he could not say that he understood everything. However, he understood Xiao Chen's words. However, Long Hua still felt dubious in his heart. He felt that what Xiao Chen said was too shocking, somewhat unrealistic. Brother Xiao, your archery skills are pretty good. Suddenly, Monarch Yu, who was in the crowd in the distance, seemed to have discovered Xiao Chen by accident. Following Monarch Yu's gaze, the gazes of the drill ground immediately shifted to Xiao Chen. As Monarch Yu spoke, he walked over naturally, and the others quickly followed. Monarch Yu, show us your skills. It was unknown who shouted that, but the cultivators following Monarch Yu instantly erupted. Right. Monarch Yu, you possess the royal clan's bloodline. You are definitely skilled in the 6 arts, and your archery skills must be extraordinary. Show us your skills. Let's see how exquisite the royal clan's archery skills are. Show us your skills then. After watching Monarch Yu's subordinates make a move several times, these people were already anticipating Monarch Yu to truly show off his strength. Monarch Yu thought for a long time. Then, he said with some difficulty, "Archery is indeed not my specialty. If I make a fool of myself, please forgive me." Good. The crowd was excited. Monarch Yu was finally going to make a move. The many Long clan disciples and generals all felt excited. Brother Xiao, if you don't mind using the bow in your hand, right? Monarch Yu asked softly, showing a humble attitude. Xiao Chen showed a calm expression as he casually handed the goose dragon bow to the other party. Then, he slowly pushed it away. Only Long Hua's heart was surging with waves. He was incomparably shocked, completely stupefied, unable to say a single word. It really was as Xiao Chen said. This was the exact same script. It looked like there were no openings. Under the crowd's instigation, Monarch Yu appeared somewhat helpless and unwillingly made a move. I am not trying to show off on purpose. You all forced me to. What kind of cultivation realm is this? This is simply inconceivable. However, Xiao Chen had seen through everything long ago. Long Hua felt curious. If Monarch Yu knew that Xiao Chen already knew everything he did, what kind of expression would he have? Chapter 1857. Monarch Yu received the bow and arrow from Xiao Chen. Then, he said indifferently, increase the gravity to 40-fold. Hua. His casual words immediately caused everyone to exclaim in shock and suck in a cold breath. Long Hua was slightly surprised. He had practiced archery for many years and naturally knew the difference between 40 times gravity and 20 times gravity. The difference between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. It was far more than just double. 20 times the gravity was already exaggerated enough, and it was the strict requirement of the Marquis's residence. The other clans and powers generally only had 10 times the gravity for their basic training. If Long Hua's archery skills were placed anywhere else, he would receive unanimous praise. However, Monarch Yu's actions were truly terrifying, especially for such an expert. Archers who knew the difference between 20 times gravity and 40 times gravity would be even more shocked. Even some of the generals who followed the soaring dragon Marquis on the high platform felt slightly startled. They said softly, Lord Marquis, if Monarch Yu can hit the 10th ring with this arrow, his archery skills will rank within the top 10 in our army. Most importantly, he is still so young. It is indeed terrifying. You are a relative of the Emperor and enjoy a hereditary title of nobility. To be able to not be arrogant or rash, and to be able to settle down and cultivate, that's the rarest thing. Monarch Yu's performance won praise from the Marquis's residence's upper echelon. Lan Luo, who sat beside Long Yen on the high platform, looked over with some dissatisfaction. Xiao Chen felt that this Monarch Yu seemed to be purposely making life difficult for Xiao Chen. When he saw Xiao Chen shooting arrows, he purposely wanted to outdo him. Luo, what do you think of Monarch Yu? The soaring dragon Marquis did not reply to his subordinate. Instead, he turned his head and spoke to Lan Luo, a doting look in his eyes. After a moment of silence, Lan Luo replied simply, there is nothing to say about his strength and talent. What does father think? The soaring dragon Marquis smiled faintly but did not say much. Just keep watching. The show has just begun. Long Yen pondered over his father's words in his heart. He was somewhat unable to grasp and did not quite understand. Monarch Yu drew his bow on the drill ground, holding his breath and focusing. Let go. The arrow was invisible and under 40 times the gravity. It hit the bullseye that was 10,000 meters away. The tail of the arrow trembled. Monarch Yu successfully made his debut, stunning the entire place. Under 40-fold gravity, late-stage star venerate experts would find it hard to bring out their advantage in speed. Even holy venerates would inevitably be affected, unable to bring out their full strength. However, even so, Monarch Yu used the ordinary goose dragon bow to firmly hit the bullseye 10 kilometers away. Monarch Yu handed the bow to Xiao Chen. Then, he smiled softly and said, Brother Xiao Chen, are you interested in competing? For Brother Xiao to obtain the Hidden Spirit Temple's favor, you must have something extraordinary about you. Yes, one round. At this moment, Monarch Yu had just received cheers from everyone. Many Long clan disciples immediately seconded his suggestion. During the family banquet, the Long clan disciples had already been hostile to Xiao Chen. Now, Monarch Yu was willing to stand up for them. Being able to improve further and see Monarch Yu's strength was indeed a good thing. What's wrong? Are you scared? Long Bo seized the opportunity to mock Xiao Chen wantonly. Xiao. Instantly, countless gazes in the drill ground landed on Xiao Chen. Some of these gazes were filled with disdain, some with mockery, and some with cold smiles. This made one feel unbearably lonely. Monarch Yu had already succeeded in isolating Xiao Chen in the Marquis's residence. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen's mental fortitude was far beyond what this group of people could imagine. He said indifferently, It is not impossible to compete with me. How much do you have to bet? Bet? Monarch Yu rejoiced in his heart. A brilliant light flashed in his eyes as he said, If I lose, I will agree to any one of your requests. Deal. Xiao Chun had his own plans. After thinking for a while, he chose to agree. Seeing Xiao Chun agree, Monarch Yu could not help laughing maniacally in his heart. I finally got this opportunity to make you agree. What do you want to compete in? Just say it. As long as you can win in any one of them, it will be considered my loss. However, if you lose, you have to agree to one of my requests. Monarch Yu exuded strong confidence as he exuded the might of a ruler. The formless dragon luck covering Monarch Yu's head spread out together with this dragon might. The tyrannical might of a ruler immediately turned ancient, distant, and noble. It was like an epic, shocking everyone. It was like in that instant, everyone felt like they were not facing Monarch Yu alone but an insignificant corner of the ancient dynasty. The aura that Monarch Yu gave off was incredibly horrifying. The sudden appearance of the dynasties might force the people near Monarch Yu to move back, not daring to look at him directly. The might of the dynasty. In the end, Monarch Yu is the son of a duke, possessing the royal clan's bloodline. When he gets serious, he looks completely different. Many people felt extremely shocked in their hearts. Now, they looked at Monarch Yu with some respect. As Xiao Chun observed in secret, he deeply felt the vastness and ancientness of a dynasty. This Monarch Yu had used less than a 10,000th of it, and he already had such a terrifying deterrence. The accumulations of a dynasty were indeed horrifying. At the same time, Xiao Chun thought to himself, this Monarch Yu is overly serious. Could it be that everything he did was to trample on me before everyone? In what way did I provoke the other party to be so wary? With this thought, Xiao Chen's expression turned grave, and he could not help getting serious. If this Monarch Yu wanted to use Xiao Chen as a stepping stone for himself like the others, then he would have found the wrong person. In that case, he would have found the wrong person. Xiao Chen's expression turned slightly cold as he said indifferently, I think that Monarch Yu's archery skills are pretty good. Let's compete in archery. Let's see whose archery skills are better. This person really overestimates himself. Monarch Yu showed off a little earlier. Even under 40-fold gravity, he could still easily hit the bullseye. Clearly, he was holding back, yet he took the initiative to compete with Monarch Yu. Did a donkey kick him in the head? He is really stupid. Ha! All sorts of disdainful voices could be heard. Many of the Long family's disciples and the Marquis' mansion's guards looked at Xiao Chen. They all felt that there was something wrong with Xiao Chen's mind. Xiao Chen had already casually mentioned Monarch Yu's strong suit. Competing with me in archery? Monarch Yu was stunned for a moment. Then, he smiled and said, as you wish. Men, increase the gravity tenfold. Boom. In the shooting range, the gravity reached a frightening 50 times, and the space around them began to distort. Under such circumstances, it would undoubtedly be even more difficult to hit the bullseye. What was even more difficult was that the slightly distorted space. If the arrow wanted to pass through it, it would have to hit the bullseye. It was as difficult as ascending to heaven. What a great Monarch Yu! If he can still hit the bullseye under 50-fold gravity, his talent in archery is truly terrifying. Monarch Yu's actions startled everyone. Under 50-fold gravity, even a holy venerate would find it hard to escape easily. If he could hit the bullseye in this situation. In other words, Monarch Yu possessed the strength to kill a holy venerate. Monarch Yu held up the goose dragon bow and shouted. Then, he drew the bowstring, and the dynasty's might soared continuously. Boom! The dynasty's might eventually turned into a golden dragon chi and soared into the sky. In an instant, all the clouds in the sky were swept away. The clouds no longer existed, and a sky full of stars suddenly appeared in this bright and clear world. When one looked up, one could see a sky full of stars. Using the dynasty's might to support himself, Monarch Yu cleared away the clouds in the sky. This resulted in a mysterious phenomenon of flipping day and night. Countless stars flickered in the clear sky. The sky full of stars looked exceptionally bright from the central great realm. What is the center? I am the center of the universe. The great thousand realms originate from me. The boundless astral regions all revolve around me. At this moment, Monarch Yu on the drill ground gave off a light that said, I am the only one in the vast sea of people. Everyone regards me as the center. Whoosh! Monarch Yu suddenly let go, and the stars in the sky gave off a bright light. Boundless starlight descended and drifted down. The arrow that Monarch Yu shot out was like a rainbow piercing the sun, turning into a resplendent beam of light. The arrow swept everything in its path, undefeatable. The twisted space did not affect it at all. Boom! In the next instant, a deafening sound rang out. The target made of precious divine materials was shattered. The target made of precious divine materials shattered without any suspense. The entire drill ground trembled slightly under the aftermath of this arrow. Many of the weaker cultivators were horrified by the remnant might. Monarch Yu's entire body shone with resplendent light, looking like a sovereign. His long hair fluttered, and starlight surrounded him. Monarch Yu smiled coldly and tossed the goose dragon bow rudely at Shao Qin. Then, he said coldly, how are you going to compete with me in archery? I want to see how you can defeat me. Whoosh! Shao Qin caught the bow. The force contained in it shook the surroundings and kicked up a strong wind. Everyone felt Monarch Yu's rage and disdain. At this moment, Monarch Yu's aura reached its peak since he entered the Marquis's residence. Clearly, it was Monarch Yu who was being rude. However, everyone felt that Shao Qin should not have provoked him. Monarch Yu's archery skills were already very strong. Yet, he purposely challenged this. He was simply seeking death. How can I defeat you? Shao Qin smiled coldly in his heart. Naturally, he already had a plan on how to win. Chapter 1858. Since Shao Qin was the one who suggested archery, he naturally had absolute confidence in defeating his opponent. The light from Monarch Yu's body slowly faded, and the clouds in the sky slowly gathered. The scene of the blazing sun shining together with the stars disappeared. Everyone stared at Shao Qin, who had retrieved the goose dragon bow. They wanted to see how capable he was to defeat Monarch Yu. Of course, aside from Lan Luo and the soaring dragon Marquis, no one else in the drill ground felt that Shao Qin could win. Even Long Yen, who thought highly of Shao Qin, shook his head in his heart. Shao Qin was of the royal bloodline, the son of a Grand Duke. The moment he made a move, he would receive the protection of the dragon's luck. Furthermore, he could enjoy the resources of the royal clan. Monarch Yu's conditions and starting line were truly enviable. Even though Long Yen was the eldest son of the soaring dragon Marquis, he could only be envious and could not compare. More importantly, the arrow that Monarch Yu shot was indeed startling, inspiring lingering fear in everyone. Even a regular holy venerate would not dare to take this arrow lightly. Long Yen, who knew why Monarch Yu wanted to trample on Shao Qin, could not help worrying for him. What's wrong? Do you not dare to, or are you too ashamed to make a move? Joy flashed in Long Bow's heart. When he thought about how Shao Qin would embarrass himself in front of everyone, he could not help mocking him. Haha. If you really can't do it, just admit defeat. Losing to Monarch Yu is not embarrassing. After all, he is a relative of the royal clan. A country bumpkin like you cannot compare to him. That's right. To think that he really dares to compete with Monarch Yu. If it were me, I would just admit defeat. Given Monarch Yu's demeanor, he would not make things difficult for him. Just admit defeat. Admit defeat. Admit defeat. Admit defeat. Admit defeat. Suddenly, cheers rang out in the drill ground. Most of the Long clan disciples had already been subdued by Monarch Yu's demeanor. Now that they saw Monarch Yu's stunning display, they already felt great admiration for him. Furthermore, Monarch Yu left a good impression on everyone. Nearly everyone stood on Monarch Yu's side, smiling as they told Xiao Chen to admit defeat. The voices of people surrendering rose and fell like waves in the sea. If it was an ordinary person, under such intentional isolation, a flaw would have appeared in their mental state a long time ago, and it would be difficult for them to maintain their calm. However, Xiao Chen was very intelligent. Furthermore, he had seen through Monarch Yu's tricks long ago. In the end, the person he would trample on would be himself. Naturally, there was no change in his expression. He said softly, "If there is really an undefeatable enemy, it is not a big deal to admit defeat and admit one's inadequacies." When Monarch Yu heard that, he smiled faintly. Then, he said in a gentlemanly manner, "Brother Xiao is rather tactful. Since you already admit defeat, then the bet is voided. Just do something small for me." "Are you deaf or are you out of your mind? My big brother is laughing at you for overestimating yourself. It's far from enough to make him admit defeat. You can't even tell this? You really have a low IQ. What kind of *T royal prince are you?" The little monk, who was lying on Xiao Chen's shoulder, rolled his eyes and said with disdain. Monarch Yu's harsh words, coupled with the little monk's mischievous face, angered him somewhat. This was especially so when Monarch Yu said, at the end. He nearly lost control of his demeanor. Just as Monarch Yu was about to say something, he suddenly heard a crisp sound. An arrow silently pierced through the distorted space and struck the bull 10 kilometers away. Compared to Monarch Yu's arrow, which had a huge momentum and vast monarch might, the one that could reverse day and night, the arrow shook the world. Xiao Chen's arrow appeared rather ordinary. He drew the bowstring, released it, and the arrow flew out, hitting the bull SI. It was like the distorted space in front of him and the 50-fold gravity were just decorations. How can this be? The group of Long Clan disciples was stunned. Someone shouted in disbelief, "The gravity field is definitely not turned on. I want to give it a try." "Right, you must give it a try." No one could accept such a result. They all made a move, drawing their bows and shooting arrows. In the end, the arrows that they shot either landed in the distorted space or went off to some other place. Not to mention hitting the bull SI, none of them could hit the target. The cruel truth stunned the group of Long Clan disciples. Their faces revealed even more incredulous expressions. How could an outsider be so much stronger than them? This was simply unacceptable. They could accept and understand that Monarch Yu was stronger than them. Monarch Yu was a relative of the royal family, the son of a duke, blessed by the luck of the dragon. It was natural for Monarch Yu to be stronger than them. However, what did Xiao Chen have? He had nothing. Compared to them, he was completely worthless. However, this worthless person managed to hit the bull SI, something that they could not even touch. It's useless. It's useless. Monarch Yu's arrow shook the world, shaking the surroundings and reversing day and night. How can your arrow compare to it? So you still lost. That's right. That's right. You still lost. Your arrow is far from comparable to Monarch Yu's. That's right. Monarch Yu's arrow was so startling. How can you compare to it? The Long Clan disciples who felt somewhat unbalanced all spoke up, bringing up Monarch Yu to suppress Xiao Chen. They refused to admit that Xiao Chen's archery skills were better than Monarch Yu's. Only the expressions of the Marquis's residence's upper echelon on the tall platform changed slightly. The might of Xiao Chen's arrow was indeed not comparable to Monarch Yu's arrow. In fact, it was a far cry from it. Monarch Yu's arrow had used the dynasty's might. It could already threaten a holy venerate, even severely injuring one. However, experts had their own judgment. In terms of practicality, Xiao Chen's arrow far surpassed Monarch Yu's. Xiao Chen's arrow was astonishingly fast, no different from how he normally shot. As for Monarch Yu's arrow, while it looked startling, in reality, it was storing up power. Although it could threaten a holy venerate, it was impossible for a holy venerate to get hit in a real fight. Unless a holy venerate was held back, It was practically impossible for a holy venerate to get hit. If it were Shao Chen, the scene that appeared in their minds was Shao Chen using his movement technique to flash in the air, continuously shooting arrows. On the other hand, the sky full of arrows was more likely to injure a holy venerate. If such an archery team could be created in the army, they would be able to eliminate the threat at the borders. They could be said to be unrivaled. Lord Marquis. The generals behind all felt incredibly excited, calling out involuntarily. Naturally, the soaring dragon Marquis knew what they meant. He waved his hand indifferently to stop them from speaking. While the experts knew the ropes, the Long Clan disciples and the Marquis's residence's generals were not convinced. In any case, Shao Chen's arrow was ordinary and not comparable to Monarch Yu's. You lost. You can't do it. You are just trash. A bunch of fools. Why are you shouting so loudly? If you are that capable, then go ahead and try. If that monarch or whatever is not convinced, he can come up and try as well. See if he can be like my big brother, calm and unruffled. The little monk was a straightforward person. He focused on defending Shao Chen, loudly rebuking those people. Haha. I'm not convinced. I'm not going up. What can you do to me, little brat? Since no one could do it earlier, naturally, no one could do it now. They would not really go up. However, relying on their numbers, they were not convinced and started mocking the little monk. Dang! What answered them was Shao Chen's second arrow. Shao Chen circulated the heavenly heart art, and the heart flame at his fingertip merged with the arrow. This arrow pierced through the tail of the previous arrow and struck the bull Si again. Boom! However, because Shao Chen increased the heart flame, the might of this arrow was significantly higher than the previous one. The loud noise was deafening, instantly suppressing the noise of the Long family disciples. Boom! The third arrow flew out. This time, Shao Chen increased the heart flame by another 10%. When the arrow struck the bull Si, the resulting tremor was even more terrifying. It was like a clap of thunder resounding in all directions, shaking the entire drill ground intensely. What was even more terrifying was that Shao Chen's control of the heart flame had reached a very ingenious level. Shao Chen did not shatter the target. Instead, he sent the energy of the heart flame through the target. The fourth arrow, the fifth arrow, the sixth arrow, the energy of the heart flame that Shao Chen sent out increased in intensity each time. The resulting sound waves were increasingly terrifying. When the seventh arrow flew out, the terrifying sound waves spread out. Even the buildings in the Marquis's residence shook intensely. Many of the beams were directly blown away. As for the Long Clan disciples on the drill ground, although they did their best to block, they still could not endure it. The shock waves caused them to vomit blood and roll around endlessly. They covered their ears and wailed in pain. After the seventh arrow flew out, no one dared to say that they were not convinced anymore. Only horror appeared on their faces as they looked at Shao Chen. They felt angry but did not dare to say anything. They were both afraid and fearful. At this moment, it was already clear whose archery skills were superior. What if someone was not convinced? Shao Chen used the simplest and most direct method to respond to those who were not convinced, who still dared to say that they were not convinced. Monarch Yu, who had been silent all this while, appeared ashen. Then, he said, "Bring my white feather bow." "Yes, young master." Soon, a subordinate brought a treasure bow that was as smooth as white jade and placed it in Monarch Yu's hand. A peak-inherited Dao tool. For a moment, the faces of the Long family disciples changed. Although the bet did not stipulate what bow to use, although there were no rules on what bow to use in the bet, Monarch Yu's actions were clearly inappropriate, even somewhat shameless. However, due to Monarch Yu's status, no one said anything. With the peak-inherited Dao tool, the white feather bow in hand, Monarch Yu drew the bowstring and fired an arrow at the sky. Boom! In the distant sky, a ferocious beast flying in the clouds instantly exploded, turning into a clump of blood mist. That clump of blood mist looked exceptionally eye-catching in the clear sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Monarch Yu's figure turned illusory as he fired 6 arrows in a row. Each arrow killed a late-stage, star-venerate ferocious beast from a great distance. Taking the lives of ferocious beasts from 5,000 kilometers away, such a terrifying scene deeply shocked everyone. Whoosh! Monarch Yu fired his startling 7th arrow, and the phenomenon of flipping day and night appeared again. Starlight shone from his body, and the might of the dynasty spread out. The arrow shot out like a rainbow piercing through the sun. A miserable shriek rang out in the air. Bang! After a while, an arrow struck a ferocious beast with an extremely terrifying aura, infinitely close to that of a holy venerate, and it landed on the drill ground. That severely injured ferocious beast could not move at all. However, its ferocious aura scared the Long Clan disciples far away. While Shao Chen fired 7 arrows, Monarch Yu did the same. Furthermore, he shot at the extremely fast ferocious beasts in the sky. No, it was not an immovable target. Clearly, he wanted to defeat Shao Chen. After firing 7 arrows, Monarch Yu appeared somewhat fatigued. He looked at Shao Chen and said, "This white feather bow is a reward that I obtained with my military merits. I obtained it with my own abilities. Naturally, it is also a part of my strength. If you have any treasures, you can use them as well. Don't say that I, Monarch Yu, am bullying you." Monarch Yu's words sounded righteous, flabbergasting everyone. It was hard to imagine that there would be such a shameless person bullying Shao Chen in such a dignified manner. He did not have an illustrious clan or a strong sect. Monarch Yu smiled coldly and said, "I am the son of Duke Yun, a relative of the royal family. You are far from being comparable to me. Let's see how you are going to defeat me. I only need 1 arrow to defeat you." When the clouds spread out and the mysterious phenomenon of flipping day and night vanished, Shao Chen snorted coldly. He activated his blue dragon bloodline and released his divine eyes. His dragon might soared into the clouds. Without relying on the dynasty's might, he used his own dragon might to recreate the flipping day and night mysterious phenomenon. That pair of divine eyes swept through the surroundings, looking unparalleled. No one dared to look directly at them. Amid the crowd's startled cries, Shao Chen took out the god shadow bow and infused all his soul energy into it. Then, he drew the bowstring and shot an arrow at the sky. Whoosh! The arrow shot out and the bowstring trembled slightly. Cracks immediately appeared on the drill ground, spreading out like a spiderweb. However, no one paid attention to this. Everyone focused on that startling arrow. That arrow flew increasingly farther until it vanished from everyone's sight. Then, a loud sound startled the entire soaring dragon city. A resplendent and dazzling light, even more dazzling than the sun, burst forth in the starry heavens above the city. A star exploded in the air. The resplendent light disappeared in a flash. In the next moment, countless star fragments turned into meteors filling the sky and quickly fell to the ground. With this peak arrow, Shao Chen exploded a star. The remnant might of the god Shadow Bow knocked everyone to the ground in the drill ground. Only Shao Chen remained standing proudly. His dragon might was unparalleled, dominating the world. The moment this arrow shot out, there was no need to say who won or lost. You are just an insignificant duke's son, yet you dare to compete with Shao Chen in terms of status and bloodline? Shao Chen had an unparalleled rank 8 blue dragon bloodline. Even the princes of the dynasty might not be strong enough before Shao Chen if they were not related. No matter what Monarch Yu's purpose was, he had chosen the wrong target to use Shao Chen as a stepping stone. Chapter 1859. Meteors fell from the sky. Shao Chen held the god Shadow Bow in his hand, shocking the surroundings. This arrow directly blew up a star the size of a city. In the starry heavens, even a powerful holy venerate could achieve such a feat with their full power. He had only destroyed a city with a single sword strike, But the problem was that he was not in the starry sky, but in a city. Even at such a high altitude, he was still able to shoot down a formation with one arrow. This was a little exaggerated and shocking. This was especially so for Xiao Chen, who was also a star venerate. Above the Marquis's mansion, the upper echelons who had seen much of the world were all moved, feeling slightly shocked. The only one who could remain calm was the soaring dragon Marquis. Up on the drill ground, Monarch Yu watched all this in a daze. Suddenly, his expression twisted. He glared at Xiao Chen and said, "You bitch! No wonder you wanted to compete in archery with me at the start. It turns out that you have a soul tool. What a good lowly commoner, to actually dare scheme against this king." Xiao Chen held his bow and said indifferently, "You can think whatever you want. However, you lost. You lost. Monarch Yu, you can't be this shameless. Previously, everyone was using the same bow and arrow, and your archery skills were obviously at a disadvantage." Long Hua, who had seen everything that had happened, couldn't help but angrily explain everything to Xiao Chen. The other disciples of the Long family had the same thoughts as him, but there was still a grudge in their hearts. He was too embarrassed to speak up for Xiao Chen. Even now, they still wanted to argue about who would win. Actually, it was already pointless. Even a fool could tell that Monarch Yu had lost. Whether he was willing to admit it or not, he had lost. Furthermore, he had lost miserably. In terms of face, he had lost everything in this battle. The aloof, dazzling Monarch Yu had fallen to the mundane world. Although his strength still surprised them, it was not enough for them to worship or respect him. He was just a mortal, and he was even somewhat shameless. First, he broke the rules and took out an inherited Tao artifact. Now, he refused to admit defeat. He even cursed with a face full of unwillingness, losing all of his poise. Monarch Yu had turned into a stranger that they did not recognize. Scram, this king didn't lose. This king is best at sword technique. Defeat the sword in my hand first. Monarch Yu snorted coldly. In that instant, he drew his sword. The sword will was like the wind, whistling out. Long Hua's expression changed slightly as he quickly dodged. Monarch Yu's sword intent nearly injured him. Xiao Chen gently pushed off with his feet and put away the god's shadow bow. Then, he moved back. Monarch Yu's sword intent was exceptionally strong. It contained an unimaginably tyrannical monarch's might. The surging sword intent was like a tsunami of flames surging over. This king will not lose. Monarch Yu showed a sullen expression as he leaped into the air and thrust his sword. On the tip of the sword, a scorching radiance burst out, as glaring as the sun. This was the famous heavenly flame sword technique of the Yanwu dynasty's royal court. The royal bloodline of the Yanwu dynasty's royal family had a strong affinity for fire-attributed energy. Aside from a few exceptions, most people would choose to cultivate fire-attributed cultivation technique. With the addition of their bloodline, they could achieve twice the results with half the effort and cultivate much faster than ordinary people. Their comprehension and usage of fire-attributed cultivation techniques would also be much stronger. Monarch Yu's sword strike brought out the explosive power of the fire-attributed energy to the fullest. The instant the tip of the sword lit up, the sword intent filling the air spread out like sparks. Sword intent filled the air before Xiao Chen, bursting forth. There was no way to dodge at all. The two had already exhausted their soul energy. They could only use veritable essence energy, martial techniques, and their own techniques to fight. This was the first time Monarch Yu faced such a strong fire-attributed sword technique. Xiao Chen felt slightly startled. He could not find a suitable way to deal with it. Holding the tyrant saber, Xiao Chen retreated as he fought. Once Monarch Yu erupted, he showed no signs of stopping. The flames in the surroundings rumbled endlessly. The drill ground, which was protected by an array formation, was blasted into terrifying pits one after another. Heavenly flame sword, 9 dragons soaring. Monarch Yu roared ferociously, and all his veritable essence energy surged. Then, 9 lifelike flaming dragons filled with monarch's might appeared in the surroundings, continuously circling him. This move, when the Marquis's residence's upper echelon saw this move, they were mildly startled. They felt that things had spiraled out of control. The moment the 9 terrifying flaming dragons appeared, the entire drill ground started burning under the horrifying heat. No moisture remained in the air, making it incredibly dry. What a terrifying temperature! At the same time, the moisture in Xiao Chen's body evaporated rapidly. Before this move was executed, it already felt like it could kill. Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless. He circulated the Ice Feather Divine incantation, and his entire body became like ice. Thin ice feathers drifted in the surroundings, looking like heavy snowflakes. The temperature in the surroundings dropped a little. Monarch Yu, who executed 9 dragons soaring, had already soared into the sky in front. Monarch Yu looked dazzling in the sky. The flames blazed, looking like the blazing sun. Monarch Yu and the true blazing sun in the sky complemented each other, competing for glory. Monarch Yu angrily pointed his sword at Xiao Chen. The surrounding sky suddenly turned dark, leaving only the sun shining brightly. This light shrouded everyone's senses, preventing them from distinguishing the sun in the sky. Was it the true blazing sun or Monarch Yu with 9 dragons around him? This was somewhat inconceivable. Whoosh! As Monarch Yu pointed his sword, a dragon-like sword light flew out of the sun, burning up all the light. As the sword light shot towards Xiao Chen, it contained Monarch Yu's peak sword intent, the dynasty's might, and a terrifying fire-attributed energy. The addition of Monarch Yu's cultivation technique allowed that fire-attributed energy to rival the might of the fire-great Tao energy. How fast? The sword light was scarily fast. In nearly a flash, it arrived beside Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen executed the Thunder Dragon art to its limit. Electric light flickered as he dodged. Boom! Who knew? This sword strike was just the beginning. There were a total of 9 sword strikes, each one faster than the one before. The final sword strike nearly forced out Xiao Chen's blue dragon divine wings. With such power, it still didn't contain any soul power. If it contained soul energy, the might of these 9 sword strikes would undergo a qualitative change. After the 9 sword strikes, the entire drill ground no longer existed, leaving behind a scene of devastation. The ground split apart and countless huge rocks flew into the sky. They were so dense that they covered the sky. Xiao Chen died. When Monarch Yu saw that Xiao Chen managed to dodge his move, he became enraged. Monarch Yu's star venerate will swept out from his forehead with a vast dynasty's might. Indistinct ancient war drums and the singing of epic poems appeared in the surroundings. That was the boundless accumulations of an ancient dynasty. Monarch Yu's star venerate will stirred up some of it. This was the protection of the dynasty's luck for the royal clan disciples in its territory. If Monarch Yu's royal clan bloodline was pure enough, he might be able to truly uncover the tip of the iceberg of the ancient accumulations of this dynasty. Boom! Monarch Yu's star venerate will contained an ancient might that looked solid. Everywhere the star venerate will passed, the huge rocks in the way instantly turned to ashes and vanished. Not to be outdone, Xiao Chen flashed with a dragon seal in his soul pool. The will of soul containing the divine might of the blue dragon clashed fearlessly. Bang! 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 The 2 wills of soul clashed intensely, producing intense explosions. The entire Marquis's residence shook intensely, spreading to the city. The buildings that were not protected by formations like the Marquis's residence crumbled. The 2's auras surged in the air. The shock waves caused countless rocks to explode. This no longer looks like a fight between star venerates. What a terrifying aura! This is simply a fight between 2 holy venerate. However, there is no holy venerate will. This Xiao Chen is really incredible. To think that he did not lose to Monarch Yu in a clash of wills in the Yanwu dynasty's territory. His dragon might is really unfathomable. What exactly is it? However, up until now, Shao Chun has been passively defending. If he does not counterattack, Monarch, you might wear him down to death. The many hidden experts in the Marquis's residence all flew out. They carefully watched the two fighting intensely in the air. Surging sword intent and saber intent clashed everywhere on the drill ground. The two's figures flashed, so fast that they did not even leave afterimages. Dang, dang, dang. The saber and sword clashed. Every time they clashed, a loud, melodious sound rang out, stirring up fluctuations in the clouds in the sky. The sky changed color, winds blew, and clouds churned. In the dynasty's territory, those of the same generation would have an innate disadvantage when fighting with the royal clan's bloodline. Not only did Shao Chun endure this disadvantage, but he also made up for the disadvantage of his cultivation being one grade lower than Monarch Yu's. After all, Monarch Yu possessed outstanding talent, a demonic genius who could challenge those of higher cultivation realms. Monarch Yu was not an ordinary star venerate expert. Along the way, Monarch Yu had used all sorts of resources to stabilize his cultivation. His accumulations were deep, far beyond what ordinary people could compare to. Along the way, the royal clan's bloodline lacked everything except resources. However, they were shocked to discover that this sectless loose cultivator seemed to possess deep accumulations. His accumulations seemed even stronger than Monarch Yu's. At first, when facing Monarch Yu, Shao Chun still found it hard to hold out. Now, he became increasingly calm and unruffled. I will not lose. I absolutely will not lose to a mixed-blood dragon like you. Monarch Yu glared furiously, appearing crazy as his long hair fluttered about. The more Monarch Yu fell into a disadvantageous position, the crazier he became. He sent out many sword moves without any regard for his life. Shao Chun did not want to fight to the death with such a person. It was not worth it. Let's see how crazy Monarch Yu can be. Shao Chun silently executed the Mahamaya abstinence violation first move, dreamlike mundane world, which he comprehended from breaking the mundane. As Monarch Yu retreated, he swung his saber. When the strange purple saber and the swaying saber light entered Monarch Yu's eyes, they turned into illusions, creating a dream. I am a relative of the royal clan. I absolutely will not lose. Monarch Yu turned increasingly irritable. It seemed like he wanted to risk his life, executing a risky move that would injure both sides. Shao Chun snorted coldly and made the first move. Using dreams as a saber, Shao Chun withdrew the saber light in the air and turned it into a beautiful purple saber light. Then, he instantly broke through Monarch Yu's sword move. Ka, ka, ka. Crisp sounds rang out, sounding like treasure swords breaking. The beautiful purple saber light looked both real and fake, like a dream or illusion. When it appeared before Monarch Yu's eyes, it activated the dream that Shao Chun left in his heart. Monarch Yu showed a confused look, standing there in a daze. However, the purple saber light did not show any intention of stopping. It pierced through Monarch Yu's exquisite armor. Furthermore, there was a defensive technique that an expert left in Monarch Yu's body. The saber light pierced through Monarch Yu's chest. It was like a solid spear hung Monarch Yu in the air, preventing him from moving.